Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you guys so very much. Long time no see, right? It's only been what, 15 seconds? Something like that. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But it is so great to see you all back again. 29 awesome people in here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I do appreciate you guys so very much. Um, welcome back, Mr. Dan Antonucci, Miss Michelle Wilkinson. It's good to see you, darling. Miss Carolyn, good evening to you as well. Good to see you. Miss Cindy Ann, all the way from Rome. It's great to see you back. Let me see. Miss Brandy, the OG's in the house. Always happy to have you here. Strike first, little brother. Good to see you. Great to have you here. Welcome back, my friend. One moment. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Miss Sherry's in the house. Good to have you here, Miss Sherry. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us again. Bonnie Bailey, welcome back. Sunshine, always happy to see you. Quartz and Cole, welcome back. And Miss Dory, welcome back. Good to have you. Rowdy, good to see you. Welcome back. Coco, hey, good to have you back. Good to see you. Come on in, everybody. Grab a seat. Grab your coffee, tea, whatever it may be. Come on, sit down, have a conversation with me. Maybe some popcorn, too. Who knows? Tonight's a different bit of a show. For those of you that were not ready or not familiar, what's up, Star? Good to have you here. Good to see you. Daisy Deads is back in the house. Good to see you, Daisy. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight, guys, we are going to be looking at the life and death and the history of the West Virginia State Penitentiary, or the Moundsville Reformatory, whatever you choose to call it. I was trying to be a little different this time, go off the beaten path. We've been doing everything the way we were doing it. What's up, Miss Cece, the sweetest lady on the internet? Cranky number one, or Cranky one. Good to see you. That makes sense better. Good to have you here. Always happy to see you guys. So, like I said, other than I'm still telling a true story. It's just not based on a movie. There were some movies made in this place, I'll be honest with you. But it's a little different, guys. And it's very interesting. I had the how can I say this? The luck to be able to stay overnight in this place for 8, 10, I think it was 11 hours. I keep saying that, but I'm not sure. Very interesting, to say the very least. I'll be honest with you. So I'm going to tell you guys my experience. I'm going to give you guys some history on it. I'm going to show you guys what it was like when it was up and booming, and what it's like now that it's dead and sleeping, because it is very much so. Quite an interesting place, to say the least. It's so great to see you guys back in here. Thank you for those of you that joined me this afternoon earlier. I appreciate you so very much. Yeah, we're very close, Dan. Like, I can literally get in my car and go 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'll be in West Virginia. So it doesn't take long at all. This is a little bit further down into West Virginia. I'm not that close to it. It's about, let me remember. I want to say it's like a 2-hour drive for us to get to that place. But it was worth it. It really was. Welcome, Miss Pamela. Good to have you here. Good to see you guys. So very happy to have you guys here tonight. We got 28 people here, guys. Like I said, not everybody's going to be interested in this stuff, but that's okay. It makes it more intimate as far as I'm concerned. Welcome back, One Made Nut. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Let me see here. Oh, that's not mine. Let me make sure everybody's getting their invites here. One moment. Bear with me, everyone. If you guys can, on your way in the door, please hit the like button, and please, if you would, please share this out to anybody that you think may be interested in this, guys. The more the merrier. The more the merrier. So let me see here. Welcome, Natalie B. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you so very much. One second, everyone. All right. What's up, Jeff? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Come on in, get a seat, guys. Get comfortable, if you will. Okay. What's up? What's up? I think you misspelled Virginia. Oh my God, I sure did. Sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. So we're checking out the West Vriginia. Sorry about that. I will fix that here a little bit later. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that, bud. I was typing fast, so it is what it is. Even wear your PJs. That's awesome. Come on in, guys. CL's in the house. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Again, 47 awesome people in here. We got 34 likes. Let's catch it up, folks. The more people we get in here, the more people will come in here. Like I said, that way, like I said, even if not, either way, it's a great story. Pink Peony's in the house. Haven't seen you in a while. Senor Dago. Buenas noches to you, my dear. Oh, la 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 la. Thank you, Miss Brandy. Let me pin that real quick. Any members or new members that would like to join the Discord, please, if you would, check out that link right there, folks, in the chat. It tells you what to do, and she will hook you up with the Discord setup, folks. Catherine Christensen, welcome. Good to see you. So great to see you. So let me see something here. Welcome, Canadian True Crime Bob. Good to have you here. Good to see you. All right, guys. Tonight we're going to be getting into something a little different, like I said. As people are still coming in, I'll just give you guys a little quick look at what we're looking at. And go from there. Like I said, we're going to be doing... One second, folks. My apologies. I thought I had something set, and I did not. Hold on a minute. Oh, my God. 1 second. 1 second. Like I was saying, we're going to be looking into the life and death of the West Virginia State Penitentiary, as we see here on the screen. Welcome, Don Kelp. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. All you awesome meatballs in the house, thanks for joining us here as we float around in the sauce tonight, trying something out a little different. This place is quite interesting, folks. We got to spend the night here. My wife and I and a few other people in our group. Phineas T. Bass. Castle High. Oh, good to see you. Alien to live, love it. Good to have you here. I learned something today that explains my ADHD brain. The ADHD brain makes everything 4 times more than a normal brain and processes it 4 times faster than normal brain explains. Yes, that is what I have, folks. have adult ADHD. That is me. Midnight Drifter, good to see you. Yes, Virginia is misspelled. I know I screwed it up. I apologize. My apologies. It's monstrous. Yes, it's monstrous, and that's why we spent the night there, because it took us that long to go through the whole place. Great to have you guys all here with us tonight. This is what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be looking into. The West Virginia State Penitentiary, or how you call it, the Moundsville Reformatory. Moundsville Prison. Either way. Moundsville, West Virginia. It's also been said to be haunted, folks. That's another side to it, should you want to look at it that way. You don't have to. That's not what this is about tonight, but you can look at that side of it if you'd like. And I will tell you a little bit about that too. Oh, yeah. I get it. I get it. Beautiful structure, folks. Absolutely beautiful. The architecture on this place is absolutely amazing. Sadly, it was built to house some very, very tough people, guys. Very tough people. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've heard of that place. We have a few here that I went to. This white building right here that's the old gallows building where they used to do hangings for people that were on death row. That's where they went. The building no longer exists. Mikey's in the house. Good to see you, sir. They would walk them up them stairs, and right there's where they'd come down. Jennifer S., good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Everybody come on in, get comfortable, get a seat. This is Mikey's in the house. Good to see you, brother. This is the place. What time we talking about tonight? Yes, I did spend the night here, Eddie. I did. Right inside this entire, and we walked through this entire building, room for room for room for room. The towers are amazing, I know. I'll tell you what, guys, West Virginia is a beautiful, beautiful place. The mountain areas, every bit of it. There's a lot of beautiful architecture. It really is, Catherine. Consider it a city of its own. It's huge. And this is where so many people spent their last days of their lives. Sadly, they were, criminals who couldn't too bad for it. These were guard towers that watched the whole place, I mean, it's just, and if you stand here and look up through these, look at the view. And there's the Indian mounds there across the street from it. Gina, good to see you. And that's what we're doing, my dear, taking a break from Idaho. That's why I do these in Monday and Thursday night things. Welcome, Shattered Dimensions. Good to see you. Thank you so much, Miss Brandy. For those of you that don't know this, I'm sure you all do by now. This channel is 100% crowdfunding, so anybody that would like to support the channel to keep me coming to you guys every day, I put up these links here for Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, and welcome anyone that is generous enough to want to support the channel that way. I appreciate you so very much for that. Pays the bill. Yeah, that is why I do this Monday, Thursday night thing, is to give myself a break from it, first of all, and to give you all something else to look at for a change, because if you look at any other channels, we're always doing Idaho or something close to that. Okay, let's take a break and do something that's kind of fun and interesting at the same time. It was definitely an interesting Interesting night. The night that we spent there. Very interesting. We got 69 people in here, guys. Awesome. Come on in. Let's see what we got. 46 likes. Let's try to make that match, everyone. Rumsey's in the house. Good to see you. CL says, much needed break from Idaho. I don't know how much I can take of all the crazy theories ready to dip out of Idaho apart altogether. I understand. I do. Miss Pamela, good to see you. Absolutely. I understand completely. That's why I do these extra streams like this. It was, in some senses, Cindy, yes, it was very scary. I'll be honest with you. Very scary. Only because you don't know what's going on. It is said to be haunted. Um, it is said. Um, they did film the movie Shawshank Redemption here. They're still the writing on certain places where they did it. And when I went in here, they still had lights up for different things. Down in the basement, which I'll show you, MTV filmed a show down in a place they have here called the Sugar Shack. Is where the indoor recreational facility was. MTV had a show back in the day called Fear something, I can't remember, but they filmed it here in the basement area of the Sugar Shack. Yeah, MTV Fear or something like that. But you can see the different markings from MTV where they had drawn things on the wall and this and did that, so on and so forth. So yeah, it was interesting. It was very interesting. We walked through all of this, all the way up and down. This is the old side of the prison here, which is, it looks worse than that at this point now, but it's still in fairly decent condition, guys. You think? Now the new side is definitely way different than this. Again, the architecture is beautiful. This is what amazed me to see these things here. That somebody spent their life in this room, lived and or died in here possibly, and the markings for the people. There's so many different pieces of artwork on these walls and stuff. Mama Bear's in the chat. Did I see that? You believe? Awesome. Yeah, all of these here, guys. And I'll explain what that there is here a little bit later for you guys that care to know. This is the newer side here, guys. It's still a prison now, it's just newer. It's in a little bit better shape than that side was. Absolutely no worries, Mama Bear. Those walls there that you see out there outside of this is where the guards used to stand behind and do different things. These are dummies that they have in here to show you what it looks like when they were in their cells. This was their living space, some of the space, and some of these people lived there for the rest of their lives. I believe it was in 91 or 92. I'll give you the dates and everything on it as we go into it. Well, Vincent, it is a prison. It's supposed to be like the Taj Mahal, you know, but it's been closed for quite a while. That's why the paint's all peeling like this. When it was still open, they kept it in a little bit better shape for sure. So sorry to hear that, Rumsey. I hope they can like take care of that to make her more comfortable and make things better for her. I will continue praying and keeping with my thoughts and good vibes sending your way for sure. Now this was like an eating area here, fencing all above and over it. Quite interesting, folks. Come on in, everybody. Hey, PPR. No. This is not Eastern State. This is West Virginia State Penitentiary, Moundsville. Eastern State is another one that's we have in Ohio, I believe. But this was Moundsville, PPR, in West Virginia State. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want. We're close, though. Very close. Yep, they filmed 2 seasons there, and I'll show you in the Sugar Shack part of it, where they wrote on the walls to go on along with their show. They were doing something with the Mothman, I think it was, in part of the show. Oh, you're okay, bud. Absolutely no problem. Welcome, Evie Marie. Good to see you, dear. Alien says we have an old abandoned nursing home in the area. Some think it's mine, possibly is insane asylum. Yeah, there's a few of those. And here we have Old Sparky, folks. This was the electric chair there. I believe they put it out of commission in 1968, I think it was. It is good to see you all here with us. So, thank you, Heather, guys. If you haven't checked it out, Tori Hathaway, welcome. Good to have you here. The Professional Paranormal Research channel is a friend of ours, very close friend, part of the family here. They deal in the paranormal, folks. It's great stuff. I gotta get myself back over there. I haven't had a lot of time for anything, but go over there, check it out. So some love, subscribe. Dustin has a great channel going over there with a great group of people. You will not be disappointed if you enjoy the paranormal whatsoever. Firefly, good to see you. No, we had full run of the entire place, Mikey, because we were a registered organization, and that's what we did. We were in there. It was years ago, but we were in there 4 days after the show Taft was in there. Ghost Hunters. It was very interesting. Where they have that Ghost Hunters has the Taft had that Shadow Man photograph they found. Yes, there is a handwritten note from Charles Manson to the warden at the time, asking for him to be transferred there so he could be close to his mother because she was in here. She was in here at that point in time. I'm going to give you guys a little look at Moundsville, West Virginia, real quick, so you have an idea of where we're at and where we're going for this. Quite a place, folks. Yes. Shawshank Redemption was filmed there from Stephen King's novel. Moundsville looks like any other town, small town. Home to a large prison. Well, I figured, we talk about criminals so often and all the time, and we talk about where they live at times, the life and death of this place, a little history on it. And like I said, being that I got right there, I have a little bit more insight into it. My wife and I both. Yes, that's what this one is here, PPR. Yeah, like my wife just said, we didn't need the energy drinks we had, but then the adrenaline just keeps you going with that place. It's pretty insane. Yeah, we had a bunch of energy drinks. We're thinking we were gonna have to stay awake all night, trying to keep us awake. We didn't need it, guys. There was a a bit of fear in a sense. We weren't really scared per se until certain things happened, but the fear, adrenaline puts off, or fear puts off adrenaline if it is, and it really did. We did really have stuff going. I don't know. This place is still here, guys. It's still there. It's used as a tourist attraction at this point. Sorry, Heather. Is that any better? Any better? This place is huge, too, folks. If you see it. All right. Now that was just a little look into what we're going to be getting into here. Let me see what we got. I'm going to give you a few little things on it. There we go here. 1 second. Start off with this. Let me know how the audio is if there was, guys.
When you talk about trouble in the West Virginia prison system, you're talking about the West Virginia Penitentiary here in Moundsville.
Overall, I think the Department of Corrections has a very good system in the state of West Virginia. We do have some problems, but as you will note, 95 to 97% of all the problems you hear about the system come from Moundsville.
That trouble included 6 inmate murders and a riot where 16 hostages were taken in 1986. Are things better now?
Things are better than they were a year ago. For instance, we do have more staffing on hand right now, and they are instituting better training programs. Certain things are probably a little worse, and certain things are pretty much status quo.
Improvements include 50 new guards added after the riot, but other guards have left since that trouble, leaving the maximum security prison without as many people for security as they'd like.
I know that we definitely could use more correctional officers.
Gun cages now dot the prison, but coverage is not complete, and some correctional officers have criticized the weapons and their training to use them. There have been changes in procedures and new security doors built. It would be much more difficult for rioting prisoners to take control of the prison. But the potential for trouble remains, especially in North Hall, where the most violent troublemakers are kept. Even a state with the lowest crime rate in the nation produces violent criminals. Most end up here, many with little to lose by causing trouble inside the walls.
We have around 250 inmates serving life sentences. That's either life without mercy or life with mercy.
While prison officials have succeeded in easing overcrowding by holding prisoners in county jails, much of Moundsville is so old it creates problems automatically. Ancient plumbing fails. Poor living conditions create frustrations. A new dining hall has been built, but little money has been pumped into the overall facility.
The institution was laid out for the way prisons were operated 100 years ago plus, and you cannot operate that way these days. There's no way to move prisoners inside that institution the way they must be moved according to the court orders. You have to keep this group separate from this group, and that group separate from that group, and then people within a group separate from each other. You cannot do that at Moundsville.
But critics of the administration say a change of command could eliminate many of the problems at Moundsville. The target of most of that criticism is Warden Jerry Hedrick. More on that controversy in our next report. Bob Aaron, WCHS-TV, News 8, Moundsville. The West Virginia Penitentiary is the acknowledged trouble spot of this state's prison system following the most violent year in that maximum security prison's history. The man who runs it may also be in some trouble. The head of the guards union and a powerful state lawmaker are demanding his replacement. Since taking over, Warden Jerry Hedrick has seen a half a dozen murders and a riot in a single year. The crumbling 19th century prison would be a difficult job for anyone.
The problem is in the layout of the institution. And until we have a new one, we're going to continue to have problems, and I don't care who the warden is.
But State Senate President Dan Tonkovich says Hedrick has lost control of the prison. He wants him replaced now.
I've seen over the course of the last year a rising level of violence, and that bothers me greatly. And as I said, that's a real strong indicator that the administration is not in total control.
The Communications Workers of America have organized a guards union. They claim Hedrick's administration treats guards like animals and hasn't diffused the situation at the prison.
The conditions that existed before the riot still exist, and it's conceivable that another riot could occur.
Guards Union local president Ricky Swagger says no one inside the prison walls can communicate with Hedrick. He blames Hedrick for the riot.
He just don't know what he's doing.
But the state corrections commissioner says he has no intention of replacing Jerry Hedrick as the warden of this prison.
Jerry Hedrick is the warden, and as far as I'm concerned, he will remain the warden.
Hedrick refused to comment directly on the complaints against him.
This was released in 1987. This video I'm showing you right now. We're going to move forward, though. I'll show you guys more. I just want to give you a little insight into what things that have gone on.
All the answers to the problems up there. I don't have all the answers. And I don't think anybody would have all the answers. When your security program is tested, that's when you find out how good it actually is.
But no matter who is running this prison, correcting some of the problems here will take a lot of money, something that so far has limited action on these problems to a lot of talk. The state's refusal to pump more money into its troubled prison system won't necessarily save it money in the long run. We'll see how West Virginia could be headed for a financial disaster in our next report. Bob Aaron, WCHS-TV, News 8, Moundsville. The West Virginia Penitentiary is the acknowledged trouble spot of this state's prison system following the most violent year in that maximum security prison's history. The man who runs it may also be in some trouble. The head of the guards union is certain to rise by at least 20 place Moundsville of the state's prison system. It won't go away, but it may take more violence or court action before the Mountain State faces its ugly bad dream. Bob Aaron, WCHS-TV, News 8, Moundsville.
Thank you, CC. All right, guys. So that one, sorry about that. Something I overlapped there. My apologies, folks. One moment, setting up something else here for you. Okay. Here we go, guys. One moment. My apologies. Some of this footage is older, so it's horrible.
Hey! All this started! Hey! All this started behind this brutality, this cruel, mass punishment. Hey! We're not going to settle for nothing less than somebody from the Justice Department and out of the governor's office. Hey, we won't hesitate to kill the hostages, not for a second. You understand? Hey, we're getting tired of being mistreated in here. So, hey, we want something done. public has the right to know about all this. We're keeping concealed. We want the public to know what's going on in here. Where's Bill? Joe?
So just so you guys know, this is the riot that happened here. That caused change in this prison, actually, guys. But this was a big deal. One moment here. Sorry to cut it off. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up as to what it was.
All
right, that's the way we're going to get down in here. Let's go this way. Let's go up the outside.
There were fires started inside, so on and so forth. There's not a lot of footage of it because they didn't want it known. Okay. But it was a mess, folks. There was some bad stuff going on. There was a few inmates killed. I don't have the exact numbers at my beck and call, but I'll show you. Here, uno momento. It was an interesting scenario, to say the very least. All right, guys, we're going to give you a tour now of the inside of the place. Papers, they had ways of doing things. CL, they really did. They took over the prison for, I can't remember exactly how many hours, but in here, okay, Pearl, awesome. We were just there yesterday. Awesome, Chrissy. Well, it's cool that we're doing this. Like I said, I got to stay inside of it overnight for quite a few hours. So, okay, awesome. Yeah, this will give the dates. It should give the dates because I couldn't find them in my. I don't have them committed to memory, I should say. My apologies. Anyway, again, let me know how the audio is on this. And this is kind of how our stay there started off. And then after we did the tour, everybody else left and they locked us inside and we spent the night. It was interesting, to say the least. Okay. That's the front entrance. And you go through those doors. When that door locks, you are inside. We don't need a trigger warning for this right now, but
feel free to have a seat back there. Find a place to sit down. You got the video going already?
Already, yeah.
There you go. Now, if you post that on YouTube and you get 1 million views and it goes viral, you make $1 million. You don't have to give me credit. My name's Ryan. I'd like to call.
I'll give you a percentage.
Hey, there we go. I appreciate it, buddy. All right, hello and welcome to the West Virginia Penitentiary, everyone. My name is Ryan. I'll be your tour guide today. This tour is going to take about 1.5 hours, and I can lie to you and say that it'll be 1.5 hours, but chances are it'll probably be closer to 2 hours. See, these History Mystery Monday tours, they add 3 areas on the tours. So we're going to go to 3 areas that aren't normally included on the day tours, and they expect me to still keep it at 1.5 hour long tour, especially a tour guide like me that likes to run his gym so much. No, it's not going to happen. So we'll probably be about 2 hours. I hope everyone's okay with that. If not, I can try and speed it up a little bit, But for the most part, like I said, we'll be out there about 2 hours. Take pictures of anything that you like.
This obviously was the visitation area back in the day. The prisoners and inmates would be on the other side of these window cells here. These seats here is where everybody would sit to visit with them before any of them had any kind of like common room visitation or anything like that. That's where they were at. Now that is the entranceway and the common area, they call it now. They have like a gift shop in there, and you can view certain things that they'll show us here in a minute. Very interesting, to say the least, guys. It really is. It was for me too. Oh, okay. Well, interesting, Chrissy. Very interesting.
Take a million pictures. Let me tell you, this is thought to be one of the most haunted places in America. That's why we do those history mystery tours, because we never told ghost stories on the day tours. Now on Mondays we do. One thing I will tell you is people come
It's
in on
awesome,
day
Firefly.
pretty frequently. They'll take pictures, and then it's only when they get home, they look at the photos, they'll look in the background, and there'll be something strange, unusual, or paranormal in the photograph. So if you take a million pictures, just make sure you look at all of them before you delete them, because you never know. People have taken pictures of their kids sitting at a table in the cell block. Then the leather masks around the front there would go on their face to hide the facial expressions, more for the benefit of those with.
Then I was just trying to let everybody know, just in case they didn't know what those seats were. I'm sure most people know that, but just giving you guys a heads up, that's all.
More so than those actually in the chair.
Yeah, eventually we're going to cover Alcatraz, so that would be interesting, Firefly.
And some pretty gruesome things would happen. Their eyes would pop out of their head, their tongue would swell up. Pretty gruesome things that nobody wants to really see. And then the telephone would be for the governor to call in, always in the death house. You never knew when you were going to have a last minute stay. That's why every execution happens in the evening. Everybody wonders that. Why do they always execute at 9, 10 o'clock at night? It's because the governor needs to have time. If they have a reason to call in for a last minute stay of execution, they want to give the governor all day to do that. One thing that always postponed executions was they had to send them down to the mental hospitals like the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, or they call it.
Absolutely, Firefly, absolutely.
Because they would try to plead insanity and say that they're not competent to be executed. So they would send them down there, a psychiatrist would analyze them and assess them, and if they deemed them competent, they'd send them back after to be executed. So that's a reason why they always did that. If the governor called in and said, hey, send them down to Weston, they had to stop, postpone, send them to
Weston is another place that I'm going to cover with you guys too eventually. I want you to know Weston State Mental Hospital is what that place was. That's now closed as well. It is a they use it for haunted houses and give tours there. That place, if you're into paranormal, is really, really interesting. It's a Weston State Mental Hospital for the criminally insane, so on and so forth, is what it used to be called. It was also, at one point, another thing. It's in West Virginia as well. Weston has a whole lot of stories behind it, folks. And like I said, we are going to cover that at some point as well. Anything that is criminal based, I am going to show you guys if I can. And we're going to split this stuff, break this stuff down. Different times and different places I'll be doing these things. So it's very interesting. All of it is. So if they, if they, like he's saying, if the governor believed that they were not in the right mental health to be put to sleep or to be put to death, sleep, that's where they went. Which kind of has always been odd to me, they committed the crimes, but are they insane? So then therefore, because if they're insane, they don't deserve the death penalty. That's the way it was looked at. So that's why that happened. Definitely a weird scenario, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, but it is what it is. So.
Weston, wait to see what the psychiatrist says. Any questions? When we're getting ready to head out through here, I will tell you about non-contact visitation here in just a second. This is the Blackwater Falls State Park. That was painted by an inmate. 5 inmates, actually. They were members of the prison art club. One of them was named Billy Foster. He also did those pencil sketches by the bathroom. Very talented artist did that. They gave that as a gift to the warden. Warden O.C. Bowles was the one who received that painting. He left it after his tenure, and it still is here, obviously. And then you probably saw the New River Gorge Bridge painting around the corner here. New River Gorge Bridge, of course, that was painted by an inmate named Danny Laney. Now, that's a name I want you to remember because Danny was not only a very talented artist and a convict here, he was also a gang leader. He was the president of the Avengers Motorcycle Club, which was the most powerful motorcycle club in the state of West Virginia. Not only was he an artist and a gang leader, but he was also the victim of homicide inside this prison. He was murdered in this prison in 1986, and I'll tell you about his murder, why it happened, how it happened, and everything that led up to it later on in the tour. So, non-contact visitation, of course, they talked through telephone receivers that plugged into the walls here up until the prison closed. This is where the inmates sat. The visitors were on the opposite side of the glass. Wasn't always the telephones, though. Originally, they talked through the grates under the windows. Funny enough, they had to cover those over because they found the inmates were advising their visitors that if they took dollar bills or pieces of paper and they rolled them up as tightly as they could get them, they'd slide through the holes in those grates. And when the inmates got back to the cell, they'd unroll them, and inside was liquid LSD. Contraband drugs coming in through non-contact visitation. So they covered those over and put in the telephones after that to make sure they couldn't do that anymore. And where the electric chair sits now is the guard post for the visitation. Any questions before we head into the hallway? We're going to be walking about 1.75 miles, close to 2 miles on this tour, so we're going to get our steps in, all right? Get through it together. Let's head out to the hallway here. Watch your step in the doorway there. No problem. Watch your step there. Catch your toe. Just high enough. Now, the reason this prison shut down, everyone wants to know that because that's a very important piece of information. Now, they built a brand new prison called Mount Olive Corrections Complex that replaced this one. They built it between 1987 and 1995. Now, the reason they built it is because of a lawsuit that shut this prison down. Now, the lawsuit was called Crane versus Bordenkercher, and it was filed by the inmates. The first time it made its rounds through the courts was 1982. The first decision said that the state had to invest a large amount of money to renovate and modernize this prison. The state didn't have any money to modernize this prison. They had seen a huge economic collapse through the collapse of the West Virginia coal industry in the 1970s. So how in the world are they going to build, modernize the prison when they can't even modernize their schools? So what ended up happening is nothing. Nothing happened. Finally, the last time this lawsuit was decided upon was 1987. They deemed this prison to be a violation of the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which protects all of us against cruel and unusual punishment. They said it was cruel and unusual punishment to house inmates in this prison and that it needed to be shut down. They cited a lot of different things like inadequate space, inadequate lighting, inadequate ventilation, inadequate heating, inadequate health care, inadequate eating facilities, recreational facilities, vocational facilities, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. It also was a huge issue that the inmates were living with very large rats in their cells. They had cockroaches running around with them inside their cells, and the cockroaches would grow to be 3 to 4 inches long. They sold cockroach traps in the commissary so that they could catch them, and then when they caught them, they would kill them, wrap them in plastic wrap, and mail them. The U.S. Postal Service was delivering cockroaches to the judge that was overseeing that case, that was presiding over the case. Judge Arthur Wright received many cockroaches in the mail from the inmates in the West Virginia Penitentiary. But I will tell you that there was an expert witness named Michael Lane that came into this prison to tour. He had worked in federal prisons for about 25, 30 years. After his tour of the West Virginia Penitentiary, he said that this was the worst prison he had ever set foot in his entire life. And he said it fell well below the minimal standards of living that should be constitutionally allowed by law. So that's why they shut it down. Cruel and unusual punishment. But
welcome, Afton. Good to see you. Molly's in the house. Good to have you here, Molly.
Things that were structurally wrong with the
welcome,
facility,
everybody.
Things that were just not up to code, and things that really provoked the inmates into violence. So, and we'll also talk about other history as well as some ghost stories. Show you some actual pictures of.
Now, like I said, this is the newer half of the prison that was built later on. I think he'll give the years because they're supposed to. Oh, right, Carolyn. The electric chair wasn't there. That was just put on display after they shut it down to show what it was. It was actually in a completely different house off the back of the prison. 3 to 4 inch long cockroach. That's why I was looking at my lighter like, that's, yeah, that's woof. Well, they were sending, there was a certain judge that was covering this lawsuit that the inmates had against the prison for the conditions they were living in. And in turn, they were sending him cockroaches, showing him what they were living with. And it really actually made a dent on the situation, guys, believe it or not.
Paranormal photographs, some pictures of what they believe to be apparitions or entities. So, any questions?
And again, for those of you that didn't get this, again, just telling you guys, this is supposed to be one of the most haunted prisons in America. It's definitely different. I'll put it that way. It was kind of a creepy place, guys. Some things happened here that I was not ready for. So, moving along.
We're going to start the tour by moving to the north end of the prison. That was built between 1866 and 1899. The oldest half down here was built between 1929, or the newer half rather, was built between 1929 and 1959. So we'll come back down to the new half. They built it because of overcrowding and overpopulation. And watch your step again right here.
That's a fact, Carolyn.
This is contact visitation.
Good deal, Dan.
They would have tables and chairs in here where they would actually visit with their visitors who would come in. Now, of course, visitors are not always adults, but you're going to have kids that are going to come in and visit with the inmates, and this is not the most friendly of buildings. They wanted to make sure that some of these visitors were not intimidated by the structure itself, so 3 inmates, Sean Adamy, Smitty Harding, and Jim Atkins, painted on the walls to make this a friendly environment. This is the last 8 years of this penitentiary's operation, the late 1980s into the mid-1990s. So we got some modern cartoons on the walls in here, right? The kids would always recognize the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that were painted on the walls here to make sure they would feel comfortable. Merlin the Magician, Puff the Magic Dragon, and then over here Excalibur in the corner, which probably King Arthur would have gone with that, which is not finished. And then this beautiful nature hero was on the wall over here. That was all done by these 3 inmates. Now, they had to be careful. They didn't put in a temporary bathroom structure for them to use the restroom. But again, if they were smuggling in liquid LSD through non-contact visitation, imagine what the contraband coming in through contact visitation would look like. So they had to make sure they weren't smuggling in contraband and let the visitors know if you're caught smuggling in anything illegal, that's a felony charge. And you could very well have to spend time yourself in prison. You could be the one getting the contraband on the inside. So, but they didn't build it in a very expensive fashion because they knew the prison was going to close. They didn't build this room until 1988. By then, they already started building down all the these inmates. But this area has been many, many different things. This room used to be 300 feet long, believe it or not. These cinder block and plaster walls weren't put up until 1988. It was 25 feet tall as well. They called this South Hall. The room itself was a cell block up until 1968. Almost 90 years of this prison's history, there were cells in this area, including the 3 original death row cells. It and North Hall, which we'll see later, were the only 2 cell blocks for the male inmates, the male population. They built new cell blocks in, 3 new ones that were finished in 1959. And they moved the inmates into those cell blocks, making this just overflow. Then after they abolished the death penalty, there really was no more use for South Hall. The oldest, it was also in the worst condition. So it came out. 1968 to 1972, they put in a medical unit above our heads, which we'll see later. They used that up until 1995 when the prison closed. But then they used the first floor as a dining hall. And the dining hall was only used for 15 years. If you think about it, it's in the old cell block. It's not going to be in the worst or in the best place with the best conditions.
That up there is the guard tower. When the people were in here visiting their friends, family, whatever it was, the guards could stand up here. There's slits in this where guns, rifles can come through and they can shoot if they need to. They were armed up in here, guys. These guards were back in the day. So that's where they would sit and they would watch over everything going on in that room. Yeah, there was no lie about the roaches. Carolyn's right about the maggots with the food. It was just very, very, very bad living conditions for a long time.
Cleanliness. The first of the problems that they had was how overrun this entire room was with rats and cockroaches. They would say every morning when they opened up for breakfast, those inmates would turn the lights on, they'd come in, and before they flipped those switches on, they'd look out across the room, and on the floor they said it looked like there was water moving like waves from the cockroaches. They'd find rats back in the food supply that were the size of small cats. They'd find rat droppings. And then, of course, because it was a cell block, they'd have sewage access in here. Too many inmates flush the toilets in the cell blocks while the sewage overflows into the kitchen. And then you have sewage water running across the kitchen floor while they're trying to cook food. And on top of all of that, in the middle of summer, it was 110 degrees in this dining hall with no air conditioning, almost no ventilation. The windows didn't open. The conditions of this prison were becoming increasingly frustrating for the inmates. And all of this led to the last and largest prison riot in this penitentiary's history. The inmates started this riot on January 1st, New Year's Day of 1986. They took over this prison. Within about 15 minutes of starting this riot, they had the first 5 hostages. They moved southward throughout the prison, and they took over the rest of the facility. Less than an hour it took them to take over this entire facility. They took, in total, 16 hostages. 15 corrections officers and 1 food service worker were taken hostage, and they were threatened, brutally beaten, stripped down to their underwear, locked in a cell, and they had their lives threatened unless the governor showed up to hear the inmates' demands. The governor was Archibald Jr. at the time, and Archibald Jr. eventually did come into this prison to negotiate with the inmates. So guess what? Not only was this the largest prison riot in the state of West Virginia's history, it was also the longest. The inmates had full control of this prison for 52 hours, and the hostages were held for 42 of those 52 hours. The governor came in and talked to, guess what, Danny Lehman. The leader of the most powerful motorcycle club in the state of West Virginia was also one of the most powerful gang leaders in this prison. He and Alvin Gregory, who was chosen to represent the African American population of the facility, sat down with the governor and they talked about what the terms of their surrender were. The governor agreed to sign an executive order to build the inmates a brand new cafeteria with air conditioning and cleaner eating conditions. And as soon as he signed off on that, the inmates agreed to stop rioting. They took over this facility, took back control of the facility rather, and the inmates were punished for what they had done. Now there were 3 inmates that died during this riot because they were labeled as confidential informants. Confidential informants provide information to the officers and the staff and are kind of used as a tool by the administration to keep control of the inmates. Well, the inmates have a different name for them. These convicts call them rats and snitches. And if they have the chance to
52 hours.
see the names of the 3 inmates that came in this room. All right, everybody.
Now, this hallway right here, for any of you guys that were curious or didn't know, the show Taps or Ghost Hunters with Jason Hughes, whatever his name was, this hallway here, okay, looking that direction that we're standing in right now, looking down at the end of the hall, at the very end of this hallway, to the right side of the hallway, there's a doorway that leads into the cafeteria, okay? That is where the photograph was taken of what they call the Shadow Man from Ghost Hunters or Taps, whatever it was. There was a very, very, very popular photograph taken of what looks like a shadow person leaning out looking, and that was captured on film. It was in this hallway at the end, in the entrance to the cafeteria that they're going to go through here in a minute, guys. Quite an interesting scenario.
You're now in one of the most famous hallways in this prison. Now, it was just called the MDR corridor, main dining room corridor, but after 2004, we called it the Shadow Man hallway ever since, because a very famous paranormal photograph was captured here by a lady named Polly Gear. She was on an overnight ghost hunt, and she heard a noise coming from the end of the hallway down here and went to go check it out. So she was walking down the hallway, and she saw what looked like someone walking up to her. She thought it was a living person, until she turned her flashlight on and said it looked like a silhouette, like a shadow she could see. That the inside of it looked like moving static, and that it moved with intelligence, seemed to back up away from her as she got closer. So she walked back this direction, right? If anybody sees that, they're not going to really walk towards it anymore. They're going to turn around and start walking back. So she got to right about where I'm standing now. She had a Sony Mavic flash photography camera. She turned around and took one photo down the hallway, and standing in front of that door that says cafeteria on it is the famous shadow. That is one of the most famous paranormal or ghost photographs captured in this penitentiary since it closed. I'm sure it's not going to go to sleep on me there. You can see one of the clearest depictions of any shadow apparition captured in here. We've had many. Like I said, people capture stuff in here all the time. So make sure you check the pictures. Don't delete anything that you go through, even if it's blurry. Blurry, still don't delete it. You never know. You can pull that up on your computer, and through the blurry image, you can find something that could be unexplained. So let's move down to the cafeteria.
And of course, when we were there, we spent probably a good 20 minutes taking pictures in this hallway. We caught nothing. Sadly, there was nothing that we caught. So I know, sure, somebody was going to ask, but yeah, at least 20 minutes we stood here, my wife and I, and the group that I was with. We took multiple pictures of this hallway here after we went in at night too, after the tour, and nothing showed up. So we missed on that one.
Right here is actually where the serving line began when this is the dining hall. So you can see the change in the tile. Everything behind the serving line was actually the kitchen. Everything that direction was the dining hall. So you can see kind of the size of where the separations took place. What was the eating area? What was the kitchen? The inmates would walk down this hallway. They each have an ice machine back here behind this door, and they come with bags that they can put ice into in the hot summer months to keep them cool. If you look on the door, you can see they were limited to 1.5 bag only. So that was, of course, written by an inmate, I'm sure. But I always find that fun. But one fun fact about that is in the 80s, that ice machine was still there. They ended up taking it out because they had a bunch of them congregating around the ice machine. And the officers generally didn't allow that, but they said, that's fine, we'll let them stand there. And they kept asking them, why are you here? They said, well, it's hot. We want to eat ice. It's excruciatingly hot in the cell blocks. I mean, the cell blocks can get to be 140 degrees in some months. So they just let it go until that night when they came back and checked the ice machine and realized, made a shocking discovery that one of the inmates had tapped into the water filtration system on the ice machine. They were using it to distill moonshine. So they were all standing around the ice machine getting drunk. Let's head into the cafeteria here. Remember, 140 degrees in the cell block, so when they came in here and suddenly had a nice 70-degree temperature-controlled dining hall, this was something they had never had access to before. The only place in the history of the prison that ever have air conditioning. To supervise this room, I mean, take a look around. It's pretty big, right? You could feed about 160 inmates in here, and then there was about 25 to 30 inmates
when we went into this, it was really huge, guys. The picture doesn't no justice, but we noticed also that these posts right here, all across the cafeteria, there was markings on them where different variations of gangs and sects would sit. Like there were certain places over here, like for instance, that the Aryan Brotherhood would sit. The African Americans would sit over in another spot. The Mexicans would sit in another spot, and it was segregated like that in the cafeteria. That's the way they wanted it. And the COs kept it that way because everybody was happy, which these people desegregated themselves because that's the gangs, as they called them, gangs that they were in, or sects. You know what I mean? Different variations of groups of people, and that's how they kept it that way. And the markings are still on the posts too. Segregated, yes. They segregated themselves. They weren't done. It wasn't done on purpose. The groups of people did it themselves, and they'd mark their post. That was where they were at. You didn't go over there if you weren't in that group. And if you did, well, you know what happened. So it was a big deal too. Yeah, and in one funny story, when my wife and I and the group we were in went in here that night, it was, when we got locked in after the daytime tour, we went back in. We're walking through here with flashlights and our EVP recorders and stuff that we had going. And we kept hearing these noises, and I turned the flashlight up, and there was like 3,500 bats in here, guys. Bats all over the place in here. And they were like diving on different people. They were diving at the lights and stuff like that. It was crazy. Oh, interesting, Carolyn. Very interesting. It definitely is at night, Evie, because it's dark as hell. And I mean dark. No lights. When they lock you in, they shut the lights down, everything. There's nothing. All the only light you have is your flashlights. You better hope you have a good one. And you better hope it doesn't die like ours did. Yes, there were bats everywhere. Anyway, sorry. Moving on.
Back in the kitchen, preparing the food, serving the food, and cleaning up the dishes afterwards. So around about 200 inmates or so in here that they had to supervise at one time. You had 3 officers. One officer in the gun bubble up here with the 12-gauge shotgun. You can see the weapons port there. One officer out here on the floor with a set of keys and maybe a radio. And then one officer back in the kitchen with a set of keys, a radio, and probably a billy club. Because they had knives back there. The inmates were cooking back in the kitchen, had access to butcher's knives, paring knives, they had the sharp cooking utensils, forks, and all that. We checked here and logged after every shift, but still, if something were to go down back there, the officers need to have something a little bit more durable than the fist to fight off the bats and knives. I remember there was a story, one officer that worked back there, she was so terrified to work back in the kitchen, she refused to do it for months of working there. Well, one day they told her, you're going to have to work in the kitchen today, we need someone back there. She came back through the cafeteria, went back into the kitchen. She locked herself in the guard station back there. Then she went back into the back of the guard station where there was a bathroom, locked herself in the bathroom, and didn't come out for 8 hours. That's how terrified she was to work back there. So it would be pretty intimidating. They only gave them about 25 minutes at the most to eat their meals.
You guys are talking about guano, which is bat feces. It is very toxic to breathe in. And also, just so you guys know, in some third world countries, it is a delicacy to eat. By the way, just a little fun, friendly fact there. I didn't know if you knew that or not. Quite interesting. Thank you, Brady.
Shifted. They had about 600 to 700 inmates to feed, and they had to feed them 3 meals a day. They could only seat 160 inmates. So 25, sometimes 20 minutes. They had more inmates. They would come in and go through the chow lines. Of course, the left-hand line was your everyday food items. Inmates with special dietary needs would go through that right-hand line. So, like vegetarians, inmates that ate kosher, inmates that had specific food allergies, they go through the right. The salad bar, they can go up to that as many times as they want, but only one trip through the chow line. They'd sit down at tables that were bolted down to the floor, and you can see where the tables actually used to sit. You might even be standing where the table used to sit there. So they gave those for the new facilities. When they closed this one down, they were lightly used tables, Can't get rid They put the dirty trays back through the windows in the corner, passing them to the dish tank workers who were back there washing the dishes. Again, they were convicts too. Then they come up this wall here and exit through the same door they entered. They had to turn their silver. They did not have the fork and spoon. They were not allowed to leave this one. They didn't want them to turn those into weapons, right? Weapons material was already frequently and common enough. It was already common enough in cell phones. Last thing they wanted was to just hand it to them when they got done with their meals.
Sorry, courts. Have a good night.
The officers would eat the food as well, though. And it's all made by convicts. So if they were brave enough to eat that food, they could go back behind that wall with the truck on, and that is where they ate their meal. I've seen a few creepy things in this dining hall cafeteria. I remember back in the kitchen a while back. This was probably about 6-7 years ago. I was back there by myself in the kitchen before one of the paranormal investigation tours. I was looking back towards the walk-in coolers and freezers back there, and I saw what looked like someone walking by the windows along the back wall. Inside with me. I saw his shoulders, I saw his head, his arms walk as he went by the window. Disappeared into the dark corner, and I turned my flashlight on, and there was nobody there. That quick, he was gone. 2010, doing an EVP session back in the kitchen behind door number 11 right there. And normally you want silence whenever you perform these. That way, if you capture any strange and unusual voices, you can tell what they are. Well, all of a sudden we started to hear whistling from out here in the dining hall. And my first thought was, all right, they're ruining our EVP session. Whoever that is walking around out here needs to stop whistling. So I grabbed the door, and as soon as I opened it up, it's like as soon as that door cracked open, the whistling stopped, and there was nobody.
Hey, Eve. Good to see you, dear. Thanks for joining us.
They're walking. I mean, even I've been working here for almost 11 years now, and even I can't take off running in the dark.
Yes, CL. Yes, there was. I got it all for you. Hold on.
Couldn't find anybody out here. It was just empty. So maybe some disembodied whistling. Give you a few minutes if you want to look back through the windows here. We don't have time to walk back into the kitchen, but I will tell you if you come back on our paranormal.
And here's the fun thing with this place, guys. During the tour like this, didn't have time to go back and look at everything. When we were locked in, guys, we went everywhere. We were allowed anywhere and everywhere we could walk that was safe, that was listed as safe, catwalk, everywhere. The warden's facilities that was shut down, every bit of it. Okay, every bit of it we were allowed in. During the tours, they didn't allow all that. But you had to be in a specified group that was registered to do these things. Luckily, we were. We had to carry our own insurance and stuff like that, and they allowed for that. So it was quite interesting.
Ghost hunting tours or our twilight tours. You can explore back there by yourself. Oh, yeah? Ever had here, he had over a wall with 180 items or something like that. It was just insane, like ridiculously smart. He used to play chess. He would walk up and down the cell blocks. He was the hall boy. He would clean the cell blocks. And he would play games of chess in his brain. When he walked by the cell, he would say, knight to A5. I mean, he would just play by one. He'd be able to keep track of which games he was playing in his head like that. So,
I've talked to guys. There's still guys. There was at the DOC that were here.
The tour could be up to an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm going to go through it and speed up certain places of it so it doesn't take that long, so I can show you other stuff. You might have answered my other question about if they're still doing tour. Yes, they are, CL. From what I understand, it's still open for tours day and night. Ghost hunting groups as well, so on and so forth. Where do you do push-ups while in lockup? In your cell? Yes, I did, Studi. I spent the night here. We spent 11 hours in this place overnight, completely locked in with no lights on. That we did. It was definitely interesting.
Here, they were one of the ones that was taken hostage.
Yeah, I've talked to a few of them. I talked to Pat Glasscock, Ed Littell. Pat Davis was almost taken hostage in the riot. He still lives right across the street. He was one of the ones that made it down to the adjustment center cell block on the south end, and he was able to get down the fire escape and out on the yard before they took him hostage. That was after they broke through the wall with a 16-pound sledgehammer to get into that cell block. So he was pretty much crapping his pants because they thought, okay, we'll lock the door, we're safe in this block. And the Inquirer, they interviewed the deputy warden. He was coming out against the warden saying what John Peck is doing is not right. You see, when the inmates, even for the smallest infractions, he would take them, tie them down to what he called the kicking jenny, which was just a form of restraint, and then he would take a leather strap or a whip that was soaked in salt water, vinegar, and molten sand, and he would beat the inmate across the back. Sometimes.
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but this warden, for punishment for even the smallest infractions of what they're saying, we saw this stuff too, where they did it at, is they would take a leather belt strap, razor strap, they would soak it in vinegar and water, and then they would put sand on it. Like after it was wet, they would dip it in sand, and then they would lay the inmate across the table and beat this person with that belt repeatedly until the person either passed out or the warden decided, or whoever was doing it decided they had had enough, which was sometimes way too much. One time, that it's so inhumane, it's disgusting, the things that these people went through in some senses before this was shut down. Absolutely insane.
Until they were so bloody and broken and had so many lacerations all over their back from the infection. A lot of inmates died from infections from his torture.
And that was the other thing too, is as he has told you multiple times, that these inmates had to live with cat-sized rats, 3 to 4 inch sized cockroaches, which would crawl. And rats are attracted to that kind of stuff, folks. Open wounds, right? And they would put them in these cells. Sometimes after they were beaten, they would go into what is called the hole, okay? And the rats, there was no light in the hole. It was pitch black in these holes, and you would not know, but these rats are in there, and they would go to the wounds because they could smell the blood. They would go to the wounds on the prisoners, and they would just, it was so disgusting, you guys. Here's the thing. Some of the people that were in these prisons, I agree, do not need, should not get, you shouldn't feel bad for them, okay? But there's humanity and there's inhumanity. Whether they're a prisoner or not, they're still a human being. They're paying their price. They're in prison. If they're on death row, whatever it is, they're paying the price. They don't deserve to be treated as animals or as garbage per se, because that's what they would turn them out to. You know what I'm saying? It was so disgustingly sickening. Oh, the doodles, yes. And there's some other things I'm going to show you about the cells too here when we get there, guys. And it's kind of weird, but it is what it is. So thank God it was shut down. And there was quite a few other prisons like this, Sudi. Absolutely. But it's absolutely horrifying, you guys. Horrifying, the things that some of these inmates went through, because the warden just was meant to, the warden should have been locked up, in my opinion, because to have the psychological ability to do these things to people, that's psychopathic tendencies, in my opinion. You should not be in charge of that many people and making decisions for that many people. He should have been locked up himself, and that's a fact.
And if he didn't think that was enough, he'd lay them down on their back, and then he would put water in their face, use a high-pressure hose, essentially waterboarding them. He would drown the inmates and then revive them and drown them again, forcing the water into their lungs, and that feeling.
Did you hear that? They would waterboard them his way by laying them on their back and shoving a high pressure. They have high fire hoses there that they used to have for in case of fires, and they would spray them in their face until they would drown. Then he would revive them, and then he would do it again, repeatedly, over and over again. It is disgusting, the shit that went on here, guys. Unbelievable.
Well, They know inmates died from his torture. The question is how many. When they asked Deputy Warden Wilkerson how many inmates he tortured, they said they were too numerous to count. Then they asked how many inmates died from the torture, and Wilkerson said that, well, for the 14 months that he was doing it, at least 4 were dying every month. And then they asked how he was getting away with that and where he was putting their bodies. And Wilkerson just said they're buried beneath the walls. They were still building this facility at the time, and they would just roll their bodies under the walls of the buildings, not just these walls, but the walls of the buildings that used to be out here on this north yard. There were 9 buildings that have been torn down since then. That means there could be bodies of inmates buried right under our feet right now. We have no idea. If that number holds true, at least 4 every single month for 14 months, that's close to 100 inmates. They could be buried and scattered all across this yard. People wonder why there's creepy stuff that happens, why there's paranormal.
And that's one of the main reasons why people are saying that they believe this place was haunted, is because that happened for such a long period. 14 months. 4 a month for 14 months. That's close to 100, like he said. And they would just bury them in the walls, under the walls, under and around in this whole facility, folks. They'd find a new spot. That's what the warden said to do. That's what they would do. And there's people all over this property buried that way, they're saying. And then some. There's probably more than that. It's insane. It's just, I couldn't believe that when I heard that story. I was just like, are you kidding me? And I'm looking around as we're walking through this place. And there's things that go on in this place. I'll tell you a really good story when we get to it. A really good story. It's what I think flipped me from the skeptical side to the possibly believing side. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it's a fact, folks.
This is the administration building right here. Let's take a look at this. So, the administration building, it is 4 floors. Take a look at the structure of how it is built. Notice the first 2 floors have bars on the windows. Well, that was part of the facility. First floor we'll see later along with that basement. I promise I'm not going to deprive you of that dark, creepy basement. We'll go down there and talk all about it later. But the upper floors are off limits because of the structural damage and the water damage to that part of the prison. It was left and abandoned in the 60s. Did not do anything with it, so by the time we were able to get there and open up doors, it was already beyond repair. So the second floor was all administration offices, just different areas where they could have secretaries, and warden's office, deputy warden's office. Third and fourth floor, that was actually a living quarters that was set aside for the warden to live.
Up here, for the longest period of time, is where the warden and his family would live when they stayed here. Okay, that's where they lived, up there, guys, until something happened. So I'll let him tell it for the story.
His family. The law stated the warden had to live on premises, so the third and fourth floor at that time, up until the 1960s, is where they kept them. It was a pretty dangerous situation once the prison became more and more violent. So they built the warden a separate house on the far south end and moved them in there, and they lived there up until the prison closed in 1995. So, but people will still see, even though nobody is allowed to go up there. We don't even allow our staff to go up there on those upper floors because it is so dangerous. But they will say that they'll see a woman looking out that window, which is kind of creepy. We don't know of any records of women that would have died up there, but they report that she's wearing some sort of Victorian-style ball gown, that she's looking out that window. And some psychics or mediums have even come by, if you believe in that sort of thing, and reported that she is sad for some reason when she's looking out those windows. It feels like she can't escape from up there. But like I said, we haven't found any historical record that could explain that story. So, the blue building over here is West Virginia State Industry. In those later years, they would work in that building, in those workshops, plumbing repair, woodworking, small engine repair. They even had a license plate factory and a sign shop inside that building there. And you always knew what inmates had worked at the license plate factory, because if they were working in there and they were placing the plates under the press and they didn't pull their hands back fast enough, that license plate press would come down and crush their fingers off. So if you came in and found inmates who were missing fingers, you probably got their lost their license. Just workplace hazard, right? Now, they also had plumbing repair in that small repair shop, woodworking shop. They made a lot of stuff in there. When we get back to the museum, you'll see a whole case full of stuff that they made and sold to the public. They would make jewelry boxes. They would make even whips in the leather shop. They made cigarette dispensers inside there, and all of that stuff was manufactured in that building. Now, we still use that building for an event hall, and the DOC still uses that building for training. So they'll have classes in there. There's officers that we're training in there today. We also use that building for different events, conventions, festivals. People get married in that building, weddings and wedding receptions over there. So if anybody wants to get married in prison, just give us a call. We'll set you up with the perfect space. Symbolic, right? Life sentence. That's where that happens. But we're having a paranormal convention inside this prison, July 20th. And we are having people come from all over, different vendors, speakers, and actually two guys from the Travel Channel. They investigate on a show called Haunted Towns, Tennessee Wraith Chasers. Two guys from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers will be here for that convention. You can find tickets to the convention on our website. So it'll be a lot of fun. It's a big event. I actually have been involved with organizing that with my buddy Dave for the past 5 months, trying to get that convention together. So we want to get a good turnout. So if y'all want to come and have fun inside the prison, celebrating the paranormal, July 20th. Any questions? We're going to move down towards the wagon gate. As we walk, I want to tell you a story about an escape. There used to be a greenhouse right over here in front of this industries building. 3 inmates worked in there. They were trustees. The trustees' names were Tommy Mullahan, Dave Williams, and Freddie Hamilton. Maybe you might have heard some of those names before. Freddie Hamilton, Tommy Mullahan, Dave Williams. They were. They did. Yep, they worked in the greenhouse. And what ended up happening is they asked the warden if they could have more freedom from the officers. They said it was too cramped in the greenhouse. Not enough space to have a bunch of officers walking through, and they're trying to work. They plant flowers and plants and sell them to the public. So the officers didn't go back in there anymore. The warden told them, leave them alone. Now, the warden was a man named Carl Legursky. Carl Legursky eventually lost his job because of that decision. He was fired because of that. And that was because 3 months after he made that decision, these inmates went missing. They had no idea where they went. They weren't in the cell blocks. They weren't in the dining hall. They weren't in the yard. They weren't in the classrooms. They came out to the greenhouse and they lifted up the plywood floor and they found the entrance to a 47-foot-long escape tunnel that went from the greenhouse underground under this back wall and out the other side. Now, they were very well equipped to do this. They had taken this tunnel and they had it all squared off. They had run electricity down in there, so they had lights, fans, see where they were going, circulate the air down through this tunnel. And when they made it out the other side, they taken a piece of plywood and cut it to look like a manhole cover. Sewer entrance, right? You cover it up. Well, they covered up the exit to that tunnel and then they took off in different directions. It only took them about 2.5 weeks to a month to bring them all back here. And the inmate that made it the furthest was Freddie Hamilton. They called him Fast Freddie for a reason. In the 2 weeks that he'd been gone, with no food, no money, no car, he made it from here to Oklahoma. So his goal was to try and make it to Pebble Beach so that he could play golf. He never made it. He made it to a convenience store where he was going to stop and rob it to get food and money so he could continue on. And he held a gun up to the store clerk, and apparently she had a bad day because when he pointed the gun at her, she told him, "You're not going to get anything. Get out of here now." I guess turned on her mom voice to him because he put the gun down and walked out and sat down on a park bench across the street and waited for the police to come and arrest him. Stayed in Oklahoma for a couple weeks while they did some stuff to deciding whether or not they were going to press charges on him or not. And then they eventually just sent him back here. He's still down at Mount Olive. So still one of the inmates locked up down in Mount Olive. He's getting up there in age too. A lot of stories, I'm sure. Now let's move down to the wagon.
Welcome, Shaz Banda. Welcome to the family. Great to have you here. Congratulations. It's great to have you here. Now, this is the spot. I have a story. Well, he'll tell the story probably, I'm sure.
So you know they're talking too much. Yeah. I didn't mean to do it.
Trying to get you over to the...
But if you want to read about them, there's a book in the gift shop called Pronounced Dead, The Executions of the West Virginia Penitentiary. One of the most interesting was 1931. This was of a man named Frank Hyder. He was, by all accounts, a pretty nice guy. All of his family said they never saw what happened coming. But they said when he got drunk, he got mean. That he couldn't handle his liquor. And one night he was drinking. He got into a fight with his wife about finances because they owned a restaurant in Pocahontas County. And he beat her to death with a broom handle. He was executed for that, but he was the largest man up until that point, and the heaviest man up until that point to be executed. And they were afraid he was going to break the gallows. They had him in this prison.
Now, this building here, we were allowed to go up inside of it. We were not allowed to go upstairs in it because it was falling apart. I think he probably isn't even allowed to go inside of it now. I do believe that they've torn this down since, okay? There was a stairwell in here. It doesn't look like he's going close to it, so I don't know. Anyway, they would walk you up here, drop, and there's a rope and a thing all set up in here, walk you out and drop you straight through the floor right there. It was kind of crazy, but I thought he was telling that story.
No, I don't think so. I think we're good. I was going to say, make us move out of the way twice in 30 seconds? I don't think so. But, yeah, we're going to move out of the way twice in 30 seconds. I will tell you a story while we're waiting.
So what happened here, guys, was this guy was huge, and they took him up. They thought he was going to break the gallows, right? That's not what happened. Well, what happened was, I guess they're not allowed to tell that part of the story because it's grotesque or something. But anywho, they took the guy up. He was very big guy, and they put the rope around his neck. Okay, and his body weight from the neck down was so big. The story that we were told was when they dropped the floor, it opened and his whole body dropped and his head came off. The weight of his body ripped his head off with the rope, just came straight off, and his body hit the ground. And that was how that happened. So it was kind of a gross situation. They had another guy that they had to hang twice because when he dropped, the rope broke. So he hung for a minute and then the rope broke. But he didn't die. They had to carry him all the way back up the stairs, reconnect everything, and do it again. And then he died. And I'm thinking, like, my God, it's crazy. So yeah, those things both happened.
They had an escape in 1946, or rather an attempted escape. 4 inmates were actually trying to jump on a truck, a delivery truck, to ride it out the wagon gate. They jumped in the driver's seat and tried to drive it out through the wagon gate. Now, that was not successful at all. They forgot about the other security measure, which was a mounted machine gun inside the wagon gate. They opened fire on that truck, and 3 of the 4 inmates died. The 4th was very severely injured. My buddy Dave actually was on eBay scrolling and found a press photo from that escape. It is a picture of that truck sitting at the wagon gate filled with bullets. So, kind of an interesting story. That was 1946. We'll just stand back here for a few minutes while we wait until they decide how long they're going to be pulling the cars up and down.
Trying to make this move along a little quicker and get you guys inside here to see different things here. It definitely does, Carolyn.
You are now inside North Hall cell block. Now, before we talk about like the caging, the fencing, and the segregated housing unit that was in here, I want to tell you about what it was used for in the early years. It was one of two major cell blocks at that time. You had South Hall, you had North Hall. At that time, this was one of the cell blocks that fell victim to overcrowding. Overcrowding inside this cell block reached maximum levels right around the Great Depression. And inside these 5x7 cells, it was not uncommon for them to have 3 inmates inside each and every cell. 2 bunks and 1 inmate on the floor on that. And that was how they had to live together.
3 inmates in one of these cells. If you guys look at this, okay, I remember this one. I was in all of these. If you guys look at this cell, there were 3 guys living in this cell, folks. 3. There were 2 bunks at one point, and then there was the other guy would sleep on the floor. And it was just whoever got what. But look how small this is, you guys. 5x7, yes. 3 people, 3 grown men living in this one cell. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's where they lived. Sometimes some of them had 4. Yeah, depending on some of the cells were a little bigger. They'd throw a 4th guy in there. 2 and 2. It's insane.
Now, of course, things changed, and once they built that new half of the prison, they had a lot of space to grow, and they turned this into a segregated housing unit in the 80s. That was a very important part of the prison because if they broke the rules, if they were convicted of a crime inside the prison, this is where they were sent.
There were only 2 beds. There was 2 bunks, typically. That's it. 2 bunks, like a bunk bed setup. Everything else, you slept on the floor. That was it, Evie.
Think of it like a jail inside the prison. General population could be for anyone. You know, you had inmates that were in here for some of the most grotesque, inhumane crimes ever committed in the state of West Virginia. Then when they got here, they made themselves. And they stayed in general population. But then you had guys like Billy Cremines who came here in 1960 for the crime of entering without breaking. Got here, and within a few months, he was forced into multiple sexual relationships with older inmates. He was convicted of assault, battery, drunkenness, and then by 1962, his first homicide. By 1979, he had been convicted of 3 homicides inside this prison. Inmates like him that had been sent over here. Not violent crimes to begin with, probably one of the most non-violent crimes you can get. Entering without breaking. I mean, anybody ever get hurt that time? Buildings, that entering without breaking. Imagine getting sentenced to 10 years in prison for that. That's what he got. And then whenever he got here, his life was over. One of the more violent inmates we had here was Red Snyder. Red Snyder lived in that far end down there, cell 21. He was in here for double homicide. He wasn't one of the ones that committed really violent crimes, but he was the exception in the sense that when he got here, he didn't want to stop. He wanted to be the most feared inmate in this prison. The 2 people that he killed were his own dad, showing how emotionally detached he could be. He shot and killed his own dad, and he shot and killed his sister's boyfriend, and then kidnapped his entire family. He was convicted of double homicide and was sentenced to serve 2 life sentences without mercy. He decided he was going to be the most dangerous and feared inmate in this prison. He was convicted of 3 more sentences for murder inside this prison once he got here. But everybody said that number was low. They could probably estimate he killed just around 6 people when he was incarcerated. But his violent and homicidal temperament allowed him to become extremely feared and also extremely respected. He rose through the ranks of a prison gang that was coming around in the 80s. He became their leader. That gang was called the Area Brotherhood. He would order for inmates to be murdered without remorse. As many of the other gang leaders had, they would usually show mercy or they would usually have remorse. Red Snyder did not. All it took was for you to disrespect him or disrespect someone that he respected. And you could pretty much bet you were going to find yourself beaten, bloodied, stabbed, mutilated, or dead inside this cell block or somewhere else in the prison. Now, there was a fun little trick that he would pull. he knew how to play the harmonica. He taught himself how to play taps on the harmonica. So whenever he had a gang hit, whenever he had ordered one of his gang members to commit a murder, he would sit in his cell and play taps on the harmonica to let the officers know that he had ordered and that somebody was going to die somewhere in the prison. So he was a pretty gruesome and brutal guy, right? Well, as he got into his 50s, he had a heart attack and he became addicted to narcotics. And he wasn't as violent, dangerous, or feared as he once was. So his gang decided that he needed to step down. Red Snyder would not step down willingly. So 2 inmates, Bruce White and Elijah Sarton, ordered for Red Snyder to be murdered. Now the only problem was, there's only one person that ever saw Red Snyder all day long. Only one person he ever had contact with, and that was his best friend, Rusty. Rusty Lassiter lived in cell 19, just 2 doors down from Red. And at that point, Rusty had a decision to make. He could either obey the gang order and kill Red Snyder, his best friend in this entire world, or he could wait for his gang members to come and kill him. Kill or be killed at that point. November the 16th of 1992, their doors were being opened for them to go to recreation time, and Rusty went into Red's cell, opened up the door, stabbed him 37 times in the chest, broken face, murdering him inside the first cell. That now is thought to be one of the most haunted cells in this prison, because Red Snyder died. You think of how active he was in life, how much he controlled this building. A lot of people think he still does. A friend of mine from North Carolina, his name's Russ. He knew how to play the harmonica. He taught himself how to play taps. He came up here, and in his cell, he had an EMF detector called a K2 meter. Has a green to red range on the lights. And, green is the lowest amount of EMF, red is the highest, and the lights will light up depending on how much electricity there is around that meter. So he was in the cell, and he offered Red. He said, "Red, I brought a harmonica, and you're going to play some music." Immediately spiked up to Red 4 times in a row. So he started to play, and as he was playing, just spiked. When he stopped, it didn't. Just kind of cool. But one of our tour guides, Maggie Ray, she had worked here for years. She started as an officer here in 1986. She knew Red when he was alive. She worked in the cell block. Even 6 in the morning, during every day she worked in here. And so Red and Maggie had mutual respect. She was a tour guide, so she started giving.
Thank you so much, OCD.
Locking the doors and turning on the lights. She walked by his cell. As she walked by his cell, she heard his voice come out of his cell and say, "Morning."
Now I'm gonna tell you guys what's up, Annie Ruler. Good to see you. One of these cells here, I can't remember which one it was. One of these 3 cells. It wasn't Red's. It was somebody else's. I can't remember which one, but it had a mirror. They had those mirrors over the sink. The one guy that was in our group with us went in there with his camera, taking pictures. He was filming things, and the mirror is made out of like a metal. It's not a real mirror. I've made of glass. You can't have that, okay? But he took a picture. One of these days, I'm going to try to get the picture from him, and I'll show it to you guys. He took a picture of the mirror. When he went back and looked at the picture, there was a face there that was looking back at him to the side of the picture in the mirror. But it wasn't his face. It was somebody else's face. Scared the shit out of all of us. And I went into, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 1 or 2 cells past this one. And I sat on the bunk, and I was doing an EVP session when I was sitting in there. My wife was standing outside the door. And once we didn't hear any, I felt weird in there. I tell you that much. It was very hot and stuffy feeling, like I was in a sauna room until I walked out. But there was no heat in there, guys. And we went in like the fall, and it was not hot. So when we got home and we were going over all of our info and through our machines and different, our tools and our devices, there was something said in that cell. There was an EVP recording that said, what we got out of it, it sounded like "help me." Okay. Just those 2 words, "help me." I don't know what that meant. If that's what it was, that's the best thing we could get out of it and what it sounded like. So that was creepy. I'll be honest with you. And there's something else that happened when we get down there that was even worse than that. And I'll show you guys here shortly. I'm trying to move this along a little quicker for you guys.
Everything on the back of her neck stood up. She was so afraid and so freaked out that day, she almost quit her job. She almost didn't come back.
Okay, see that mirror, guys? That's what I'm talking about right there. That is the type of mirror I'm talking about. That's the photo he took, and that's the picture where he found it. There's another cell we're coming up on here that we were not sure of what it was when we first saw it, and I'm going to tell you what it is. I hope they show the cell.
So if you ever come and stay the night, you can come and say hi to Rick. That's why people leave these cigarettes and chewing tobacco and flowers in there. They're trying to block private and talk. And they do that in prison too. You know?
Hey, Pappy.
They had cigarettes, they could smoke in here. They would bring the cigarettes and they'd say, hey, can I talk to you? Here's a smoke. Can I talk to you for a little bit? Man, currency. Let's move down this way. Cell number 9 has a lot of writing in it. That's all done by Danny Alexander. This is the most decorated cell in this prison. Scrap or Scrappy is what they called him. And he absolutely loved rock and roll music. I don't know if you could tell or not. They're trying to block private and talk. And they do that in prison too. Let's move down this way. Cell number 9 has a lot of writing in it. That's all done.
Okay. This cell here, I don't know if they're going to show it, so I'm trying to show you this way. All right, but if you look where his hand is here on the door, he's opening the door up. Inside, there's a lot of artwork on the walls right here, folks, right? If you look closely, right here, there's a hole in the wall. Quite a few of these cells had these holes, and they were drawn around. There's actually one of these cells, I'm not sure which one it is, but it is a full body length picture of a woman that's not dressed. She's nude. And that hole in the wall is right in a spot that it should be. I'll just put it that way. Who was it that was in there, this place? Hold on a minute. I'm looking. One of you guys said that you were just there and you saw this. Where are you at? Or did you leave? Let me see. Good Lord, I can't find you. Anyway, these holes are called glory holes, folks, for those of you that don't know. And in some senses, they were accessible from both sides, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, this is all male here, by the way, no females. So that'll tell you what I'm talking about right there. And there's quite a few of them that are in these walls that, however they did it, and that's what they did. So moving on, just so you know.
Done by Danny Alexander. This is the most decorated cell in this prison. Scrap or Scrappy is what they called him. And he absolutely loved rock and roll music. I don't know if you could tell or not. They used this cell, though. This is original markings, but they used this cell in a show that was on Hulu called Castle Rock. Castle Rock is a show that is based off of the novels and stories of Stephen King.
And that it was Castle Rock, the TV show. Yes. I forgot about that. They used that cell for it. Sorry, Pappy. I just have to give you guys the truth. What's up? Don't dive. Good to have you here.
They used this prison as Shawshank Prison, and that was the cell where one of the main characters, I should call him. Now, he was a supporting character, but he was the main creepy antagonist, I guess you could call him. He lived in the cell. Check it out. It's on Hulu. It's a good show. Now, all the cells locked and unlocked using a locking mechanism called the slam rod. It was the most popular locking mechanism on prison cells in the late 19th, early 20th century. You can see this key right here operated the lock on the door. But not only did you have to unlock that, but there's a handle on the end down here where you had to push that forward. And that would pull this slam rod off of the door into the position that it's in right now. And then the doors would open. Until you pulled that slam rod off, that door was not open. Anybody ever heard the term, I was in the slammer? That's where that comes from.
Could you open these doors individually or all?
Yeah, the way they did it is they would go down. So let's say 4, 3, and 4 are locked with both the slam rod and the keys. I want to open 3, but not 4. Now, I got to unlock this. Once I unlock that, the door's still locked. I go down and pull the slam rod off, and then 3 is the only thing that's unlocked. And 3, speaking of, that was handicap accessible. It was a wheelchair accessible. So, see how they cut it out? Very crudely, creating enough space to push the wheelchair into the cell. There you go. Just push themselves up off the chair and get in. There was an inmate in that cell at one point named Paul Hankish. Is anybody familiar with the history of Wheeling? Wheeling is about 10 miles north. It used to be the state capital of West Virginia back in the day. Well, West Virginia is not one that's known for much mob activity, but the city of Wheeling was one of the most dangerous cities in the state of West Virginia back in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. That's because of their mob leader. The leader of the Wheeling mob was a man named Paul Hankish. He lived in the cell for a while. Now, he was in a wheelchair. The reason he was in a wheelchair was something that happened to him before he rose to power. He was trying to take over the mob from the current leader back in the 60s, Bill Lice. And there's speculation on exactly who planted the charges, but let's just say somehow 3 pounds of dynamite found their way into the front engine compartment of Paul Hankish's car. He woke up one morning in 1967 to start the car, blew off both of his legs. How he survived, I have no idea. If you look up Paul Hankish Wheeling car bombing, and you see a picture of that car, you will not believe that that man survived it. But he did. He just didn't have any legs. And then from there, he rose to power, and he became one of the most dangerous mob leaders in the history of the city of Wheeling. See, Bill Lice was all about illegal gambling, and he ran a casino. That was his stick.
Have a great night, Sudi.
Drugs, prostitution, murder, and also through some gambling too. All along Market Street was the brothels. Really? Red Lake District. It's actually where Center Market is now, where Coleman's Fish Market is. All used to be brothels. Paul Hankish brothels. Nobody wanted to go down to that part of the It's another gun cage. You got gun cages on either side. Behind this fence, they call that the gun control cage shotgun. And I think you can punish them. You guys are exposed to it. You think about. All
right, I'm going to move through some of this, guys, to move it along quicker because some of this doesn't matter. I remember this part of the tour. It's really kind of boring here. So moving along. And I will tell you guys that when we got locked in at night and we were in this part of the prison all the way up to the 3rd level, I'm telling you guys right now, I had no fear of ghosts or anything like that when I did this, okay? Until after I was in this place. I'm telling you, I had a feeling sitting in these cells. We would sit in there and do EVP sessions, okay? Or just sit in there for 10 minutes at a time. And at some point, it felt like something was doing this to me. Seriously, it was so weird, okay? And it was insane. And you could almost feel the sadness, if that makes any sense. The level of sadness in this place, you could almost feel it. It was insane. But it gets better as we go deeper down into the prison. I'll show you. At one point, there's a story. There's 2 stories, actually, I have that are interesting. At one point, there's just a real heaviness, guys. Like when I was sitting in this one cell, I leaned back and I was taking pictures like this of different things in the cell, right? With my camera. I was doing a video with a camera. And it just felt like something was sitting on my chest, like sitting on my chest. And I said, I can't breathe. And I got up and I walked out as soon as I walked out of the cell, I walked over by the wall, by the windows, and I was fine. you walk back in, I felt that feeling again. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? Not rubbing on me, Carolyn, but like squeezing me on my arms, like hugging me. It was weird. I've never felt like that before, guys, ever. And I've never felt like that since. Well, I kind of have, but that was in a different prison. So moving on. They do have a smell. They have that. Well, it smells old, first off. Okay. That's a definite fact. It's old. It's old paints and different things, and the rust and the moisture, all of that. Yeah, like a heavy pressure CL, but the moisture smell and it. Some of these cells had a like. How can I put this? Like, understand something that these people spent years upon years in these cells. You guys, years. So they lived in these cells. Their body imprinted into these cells, their body smells, their life was imprinted into this cell. It was weird. So in some senses, I almost think you smell that person's essence in that smell. It's hard to say that's what it is, but it's definitely weird, guys, and it's definitely not real, like normal at all. Right, Carolyn, like a living soul type. Like sense that you feel. Like I never knew how to explain it. Says Banda Dago, 100% it'll be haunted, especially with what's happened there in heaven. It says, oh yeah, absolutely. There was definitely some things that shouldn't have happened there. You know what I mean? It went beyond the old house smell, CL. It was even beyond. It wasn't mold. It wasn't mildew. It was just a really heavy, thick smell of like intense old. There's the only way I can explain it. It doesn't make sense. You see the two bunks, right? Hold on. Okay. You see these two bunks. Imagine being a grown man. I don't know. We'll just say 5'10", 185 pounds. 3 of those guys in this one room. 23 out of 24 hours a day, maybe, 12 hours a day, all day long. That's what was in this room. Imagine that much. I mean, I can't, guys. That's like being in a closet, having 3 guys in a closet 24 hours a day for 6 months. Imagine that feeling. Like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that at all. There's no way. I don't know how they did this. I just don't know how they did this. It's insane. Prisons now are they're bigger than this from what I've seen. But these cells here, these old ones, were insanely small. I could literally sit on these bunks, this bottom bunk here, and I'm not that tall, and stick my feet out, and my feet would come to like right here, almost touching that wall. Okay. It was crazy. Like sardine cans. Yes, exactly. On top of that, once you had 3 people in that cell, you got a toilet. And sometimes some of them had little desk area. So you got a toilet and 3 people, 2 bunks. What the hell? You have no room to turn around in there, guys. All day long. All day long. They were like cages. You're right, CC.
to an electric trolley motor. So the accelerator and the brake all control which direction the wheel would spin and how fast and slow it would go. I will tell you that when they installed this in 1894.
Absolutely. Shaz, I know my wife is a ordained minister. Before we did this, we had a little ceremony. We blessed everyone. We have always had these with us. Okay. Each one of us has our own version of this. And that's, how we kind of did that ourselves. But we still had experiences, I promise you.
One here and one in a prison in Manchester, England. That prison's called H.M. Strangeways. So this is the only one of these in the United States. So definitely take a look at it, take a couple pictures, maybe of you in it. That way you can prove that you were actually here. Yeah. Gotta have photo evidence, right? Take a look at that. There was actually an officer that died by that wheel, believe it or not. Nope, he had a stroke while he was on duty. Massive stroke. One of the only line of duty deaths of an officer that was not fired. That was 1927. Officer A.H. Evans was his name. 1946, there was an officer named Officer Ketchum, son of the warden. Warden Ketchum. Officer Ketchum was taking a bunch of transported inmates out to the prison farm, and one of the inmates grabbed his gun, pistol, the sidearm, shot and killed that officer, shot and killed the warden's son. Brought him back here to the prison. 5 days later, they found that inmate hanging in his cell from apparent suicide. 3 days later, the warden resigned.
I don't know if you heard that story clearly. The warden's son was a corrections officer in here, okay, and was taking an inmate to the farm, like the prison farm. The inmate grabbed the warden's gun, or the CO's gun, shot and killed him. That CO just happened to be the warden's son. They said 3 days later, they found that inmate. They brought him back here, of course. They found that inmate hanging from apparent suicide, and then the warden resigned a few days later. It wasn't suicide, folks. So it is what it is. These things happen.
Tragic, sad, yes. I'm not saying that it wasn't a suicide. I'm just saying that it's kind of like, screaming and scaring people, and then.
Okay, we're coming up on the basement area. This is where it gets interesting, folks.
By November 3rd, I'm ready to go again. Watch your step going down into this basement, everybody, and also watch your head on this sandstone wall.
Yeah, I didn't understand anybody that would take children in either. We didn't in our group at all. We didn't take any kids with us. That's just not a place for kids to be. Because there was a deep darkness here, and I never trusted that, guys. I never did. And I just, whether you believe in these things or not, it's easier just not to take kids at all. Thank you, Heather, again for that, by the way. Moving on.
Is that you?
Yeah, I agree. Do you have a cinnamon neck enough?
I do.
I was gonna say, I can smell it from over here.
Really?
Yeah. I smell cinnamon. Who's got cinnamon?
You want?
Oh, I won't be able to talk if I eat cinnamon. I love cinnamon, but I tell you what, it does kind of dry it out. So this room down here, this is the basement. In the early years, they used this for punishment. They would lock them down here in cells, chain the walls for days, weeks, sometimes even a month at a time. They'd leave them down here with nothing but a bucket to use the restroom. They'd leave them down here in complete darkness for a little while, and sometimes not let them out for a month. Imagine how horrible of a punishment that would actually be. It would be extremely dark down here. And even at night, as it is now, it still gets extremely dark. But it was changed, it was renovated, they modernized it, and in the 50s, they put a new inmate down here, not for punishment, but for a reward. His name was R.D. Wall. R.D. Wall was a maintenance man, he was a trustee. He had been incarcerated here for a little while, and they knew they could trust him. He took care of the boilers that were down here in this boiler room and did the preventative maintenance, and as a reward, he got to live in this room where we are now. This was his living quarters. Now, he had a couple of friends, one named Charlie Plants, one named Billy Cremines. Does that sound familiar? Billy Cremines, the entering without breaking guy that ended up committing 3 murders in here. Billy and Charlie were good friends with R.D., but they tried to smuggle in a gun into the prison, and they told R.D. Wall about it. A couple hours later, the warden knew about it. He was there to confiscate the gun. They thought R.D. Wall's the warden's head snitch.
Well, it looks like they cut that story off. So R.D. Wall was, like he was explaining, he was down there doing this, doing that. That was his home, per se. Well, those 2 guys were friends with him at some point. Well, they, as he was saying, they tried to smuggle a gun in. The warden found it. Those 2 came down after R.D. because they thought that he was a snitch. R.D. was going to the bathroom, and they took care of him. From what I understand, he was beheaded while sitting on the toilet, and found there not quite it. Well, it was a while later because nobody really bothered with him because he was down there all the time. You know what I mean? And that's where this story comes into play that I had. My wife and I were down there doing a EVP session, and we had another group of people with us. We were all together. There was 2 of us, and something I never believed in doing, but the one guy that was with us did was prompting the spirits, per se. Okay. And this guy said, while we were recording EVPs, are you down here, RD? Do you have anything to say to us? Blah, blah, blah. And then he said, I heard you went out like a bitch. And I said, don't, we shouldn't do that kind of thing. I heard you went out like a bitch because you were a snitch, blah, 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 blah. Right seconds after that, my wife said, Joe, stop playing around. Leave me alone. Don't do that kind of stuff. I turned my flashlight onto my face and I said, what are you talking about? And she was from one corner of that area to the other away from me. And I said, I'm over here. And she was like, what are you talking? What? You didn't just touch the back of my neck. And I said, I'm way over here. How did I do that? Needless to say, we left that room immediately because that creeped her out bad. She said she felt something go up the back of her neck and the top of her head like that, like a brush with a hand like this. And we were done. We were done down there. That was the end of it. We went over to the Sugar Shack after that, I do believe. And yeah, it was quite interesting, folks, to say the very least. That was one of the things that made me start to believe. She was petrified. And she's what people would call a sensitive. She feels things that people don't feel sometimes. You know, she gets those feelings, those urges. It was weird. It was very, very weird. And she thought I was doing it. And it was after that guy made that comment like that. And she said, that's why you don't do that, dude. He was a little younger than us, but whatever. So, moving on.
Alive or not, it's still in here. Riley, come see for a minute.
He also did all these. So take a look at each one. His signature 9 years ago, I would say. Two members of the Avengers motorcycle.
This is where the other episode happened, okay? 1 sec.
This was lined with beds down here. Director, head medical examiner. His name was Paul.
This was the medical ward on the 2nd floor, folks. Huge, huge open area. He's explaining it here in a minute. I'll let him explain it.
There were inmates that died on this whole floor. Haven't quite a bit, but this is a pretty active area. I remember about 7 years ago, I was walking through here as I was walking in this room. I heard something fly past my head and hit the floor and roll behind me. Now, there's nobody in this building with me. The only person in here, so I'm opening up the normal investigation. The other 4 guys hadn't got here. So, I turn around and I look, and rolling across the floor behind me is a double-A battery. No explanation. Then November.
Wow. Okay. So the way that this is set up is all the way down here. Let me see if it'll show. Okay. No, wait a minute. Okay, so over here is like the entranceway. You go upstairs. Over here is the entranceway to this room. And then it comes all the way through to another exit to go down more stairs. Me and my wife were over here walking with our flashlight, just walking and listening and looking and this and that. We got near the doorway and she got violently sick. Seriously, she turned white, pale white. And she said, I can't, I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, what? She goes, I'm going to throw up. And she backed away from the doorway. And I'm like, are you all right? You know, I was worried about her. She took some deep breaths and she said, yeah, I'm okay. I said, all right, come on. Because once you're up there, you have to walk through there to get to the other side to go down, unless you turn around and go back. She got violently sick. Okay. We started walking forward again. We walked into the room about right where this guy's standing right here. And she projectile vomited onto the floor. No lie. And I was like, what the hell? And she backs up out of the room. It was literally like 4 feet. And she's backing up and leaning against the wall. And we had water bottles. And I'm giving her some water, so on and so forth. I'm like, what is wrong with you? What the hell's going on? Are you hungry? Is it something you ate? What's going on? She goes, I don't know, but I feel like I feel like garbage. I said, and she was real white, pale. And I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? And she's breathing. She took a little bit of water and it just shot. Like I said, when we were in the room, shot. And I'm like, oh my God. I can't believe you, like, we're going to have to clean that up or something. And then we told the people about it later. They're like, don't worry about it. We'll get somebody to clean it up. But anyway, we go in, we step back in again after a few minutes of waiting. And she starts to feel that way again. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Every time we walk in this room. She's like, I can't do this, hon. I can't. I said, all right, so we're going to go back. She goes, no, because I want to see. There was a hallway full of other rooms on the other side. She said she wanted to see it. Okay. So we're standing outside this doorway about 3 feet from the actual entranceway to the door. And I said, let's do this. I said, let's just run through and get the hell through it and get to the other side. She's like, all right. She took a few breaths and we bolted through there. And the whole time we're going through there, she felt exactly, she felt like death the whole time. She said, we got through that thing out of that room into the next hallway and she was fine. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my absolute life. And that's my right hand to God is the truth that happened. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that. And I'm like, what the hell was that all about? And her color started to come back. You know, she drank a little bit more water. We sat down for a minute and then she was fine after that. But that room alone made her that sick. I couldn't believe it, guys. It was insane. Yeah, we had to go all the way through here. This was like where the nurse's station was and the guard boxes and all that kind of stuff. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then we came out the other side. And then they're back into this side of it. It was insane. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Nothing, ever. I felt so bad for her.
Other obligations, they play baseball, football, softball, track and field events out here on the yard. Lots of sporting events took place out here. They would even set up a boxing ring back in the 60s and they would have boxing matches. The bathrooms, notice how there's no walls on them? They actually had to tear those walls out because an inmate named Paul Rude was beaten almost to death inside the bathroom. He went in there, he liked to trash talk the inmates. Trash talk their buddies. Well, they got mad at him one day, back in 1988, and followed him in there. They beat him almost to death inside that bathroom. He had to have full facial reconstructive surgery to put him back together.
Okay, we're going down into the Sugar Shack now, it's called. It was the indoor rec area. If it was too cold, rainy, snowy, whatever was going on outside, they couldn't go outside for rec. They would go in here.
things did not always match the atmosphere down here. Because a lot of times, while they did have fun down here, playing pool, ping pong, card games, and board games, it was dangerous. You know, the officers did not supervise them. We're still waiting for you.
They were absolutely, unsupervised when they were down here. There was officers on the outside of the opening, but very rarely were they down here with them. Okay. This is the area that MTV used for their thing that they did. And there was a lot of dark stuff that happened down here. And we had some weird situations happen down here. EVPs, weird feelings. A lot of people were touched in this area and felt like they were being touched. It was very weird down here.
The officers did not supervise down here. So it got to the point where it was so dangerous for anyone to come down here that if you had enemies, you would not want to be here. They had to shut it down in 1980 because of how violent it would be. There was more assaults of all kinds inside this room than any other part of the prison, so it was notorious for that. And because of that, they believe it to be one of the most haunted areas in the prison. People will report seeing a lot of shadow apparitions down here, a lot of voices. And I remember I worked in this room for our haunted house about 6 years ago with myself and my friend Steve, who I told you owns that Paranormal museum. He worked here as an actor in the haunted house too, and a tour guide. And we were sitting across the room, and we would see people move through this room, just shadows moving through, and nobody knew there was nobody walking through because we knew it was a room, and people would just randomly walk through. We also could hear voices. And one night we were pretty sure something actually left us. But my boss Tom, he was walking through here one night and he was actually grabbed by the arm. He was walking through the shack. And Lori, one of my coworkers, she saw her first.
Okay, this picture right here that we're coming up on, if they show it clearly, it was what MTV used for that show, MTV Fear or whatever it was. This is supposed to be like a picture of a Mothman. They put this painting on the wall and they did this whole thing down here with it. So that's from MTV, folks. The rest of the paintings were from the inmates. Yeah, we've been told that, Shabazz, or Shazbanda, sorry. We've been told that before, so is she. She just doesn't really pay too much attention to it most of the time. They didn't watch them down there, EB, because it was a closed, confined space, and they did not feel comfortable being down there with them, from what we understand. So they just kind of let them do their thing unless they had heard really loud noises going on or things like that. And they'd be trapped down in there and they'd be outnumbered, like you're saying. Yes, Carolyn, they could get cornered down there, so they wouldn't do it. They would call them out and they'd walk them into the doorway and they'd stand outside the doorway where they could get out. And then, if they had to, they'd gas them and things like that, which happened a few times, I heard. Just wasn't a safe space for them, but they had to have an indoor rec area for them, and that's where they put it.
We do have a haunted house in October. That's why you see all those.
Now, this is the new side of the prison, and these are newer, way newer cells. These were built between 29 and 59. A little bit larger than the smaller side and the older side, but still quite small. And they're still in bad shape, but they weren't back in the 90s and the 80s.
So you are now in New Wall cell block. This is J block. K block is on the other side. You have L block and M block, and every single one of these blocks.
Get that shit out of here.
You can see that these look bigger here. The beds are bigger. So there's a little bit more room on this side. And it was like brand new at some point and kept very nice and neat, clean. And this is where they had most of their inmates at some point before the prison shut down, was over on this side.
As a New York Times here.
From what I understand, there was an inmate that was murdered here. He was pushed from the 3rd tier up top there, off the top, and he came down and he hit this wall with his head and broke his neck. I was told that story.
Nobody's complained yet, so that's good. But I apologize that we're running late. I just got talking too much on this tour. But I apologize that we're running so late. I just got talking so much on this tour. Nobody's in a hurry. I just like giving the information. I like talking about it. I lose track of time.
If we didn't want the information, we would be for a tour. I like hearing that. Y'all put your hands in there.
All right, let's go. Anybody want a picture taken? Do you want a picture taken of you?
All right, now that's the inside of the prison, the tour itself. Let's see here. Let me give you guys this real piece of info here.
It's a tale of
real quick, just so you guys give you guys a look into the paranormal section for a second, or the paranormal side of this for a second here. Sorry.
murder and mystery as thousands of people flock to Moundsville to meet their fears dead in the eyes. Nestled behind ancient burial grounds and where near 1,000 deaths occurred, 7 News reporter Stephanie Grinley wanted to see for herself the stories of the Moundsville Penitentiary, and she took back with her footage that we just can't explain.
They begged to please don't let me die in here.
Near 12,000 locals head to the pen each year to be scared for fun during the season when leaves shrivel and fall from the trees. But the true horror takes place when the costumes are in storage.
I've been here for 20 years and the place is haunted. I'll tell you that.
People of the worst sort sat to wait out their days. Demise dreaded to be met inside these cold walls. 998 deaths occurred in the Moundsville Penitentiary. Souls, some say, still linger. Among the wretched lives murdered, a leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, William Red Snyder, was violently stabbed 37 times in his cell. It's in his cell, his voice, that people say they hear the most, but Red is not alone. May of 2004, a woman was staying the night at the pen. She heard a noise, saw a figure, and then captured something something that now hangs in the museum.
There was a solid black shadow standing in front of this door, and it was looking right at her. It seemed to be transparent, and she said it actually looked down at the light on its chest, and it kind of looked back at her. As if that's not strange enough, she continues walking backwards in the hall, raised her Sony camera. She took one photograph, and thankfully she captured the shadow that we call the Shadow Man.
That's the picture right there that was captured right there. And this woman was with the group that was with TAPS, the ghost hunters. And that's the picture from up the hall that I told you guys, the Shadow Man. And it is about as clear as you'll ever get, guys, as far as an apparition looks, unless you see a full body apparition that you can see through. That was insane to me. Always thought that was nuts. I don't know if you guys ever saw that picture, but there it is. That's it. She took that from halfway up the hall that I showed you guys, and that's what she got on it. And it was at night, okay? Right, Carolyn, right. Creepy as hell. I could not imagine being that woman. I probably would have been scared to death, guys, and I don't get scared about these things. But that, can you imagine looking up and seeing that? When it's pitch black in this place and you're in there pretty much by yourself, locked down? No. Nope. Yeah, that has happened, Chaz. That has happened. Yeah, that's the photograph right there, you guys. Definitely. There's a little bit more coming. But yeah, that picture alone is enough to scare anybody, I think.
Jason, our tour guide, is a spirit enthusiast, you might say. One eerie night of 2012, Jason was walking the dark halls in the North Wing, and something blocked the light from his flashlight. Maybe the same solid black shadow, this time ready for a close-up.
A human-like figure, best I could describe, walked out sideways from cell 17 and kind of stared me down for about 5 seconds, and I froze in fear because I thought I don't want to continue walking towards it.
He was in a frozen shock phase. Oh my God. There it is, you guys. Oh my God. Unbelievable. There it is. We got it.
Don't want to turn my back on it. So a few moments later, I decided I'm going to walk out backwards. And the entire time I did that and I got out of sight around the corner, whatever that thing was still standing there staring at me.
Did you hear that? Jason, Dan, our cameraman, and I stood alone on the 4th floor, the former psych ward. We didn't make that sound, but if not us, then who?
Did you guys hear that noise that got picked up? Listen. All right, listen to this in the background.
Did you hear that? Jason, Dan, our cameraman, and I stood alone on the... Did you hear that?
Standing there staring at me.
Did you hear that?
Whatever that thing was still standing there staring at me.
Did you hear that? Jason, Dan, our cameraman, and I stood alone on the 4th floor, the former psych ward. We didn't make that sound, but if not us, then who?
The people that don't believe me, I tell them, I say, come spend the night here.
It's here. It's here.
In the Moundsville Penitentiary for 7 News, I'm Stephanie Grindley, working for you.
Oh, I'm
Who are you talking to, Heather? Rowdy? But yeah, there's that. Hold on. Let me give you guys the 92 Moundsville prison escape real quick. Hold on.
Began around 4 o'clock, coordinating the search for the fugitives involving all local and state police departments. Roadblocks were set up at every major artery in and around the Moundsville area.
Can you look through your vehicle there, man, please? Thank you.
Traffic was backed up for several miles for several hours as authorities combed the area without success, looking for 33-year-old David Williams, 5'9", 180 pounds, from Grant County. 34-year-old Fred Hamilton from Kanawha County, he's 6 foot 175 pounds, as well as 49-year-old Tommy Mullahan, 5'10", 200 pounds, a McDowell County native.
They are considered dangerous. We don't know if they're armed at this point.
Any inmate that escapes should be considered dangerous. They haven't shown, since they've been incarcerated, any inclination to be dangerous, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be considered. Any inmate that escapes should be considered dangerous.
The inmates escaped by tunneling from the greenhouse area inside the pen under the east wall and came up on the back side of the pen outside the wall.
It's taken a considerable amount of time to dig this tunnel. It wasn't done, I don't believe, today.
The hole, about 1.5 feet in diameter, was discovered by a Moundsville resident. Prison clothing and a ladder were inside the hole. The resident alerted authorities, and when an emergency check was taken, the 3 inmates who had escaped before were on the loose again. Because of the time that has elapsed, Warden Legursky doesn't believe the men are in the immediate area.
I don't feel they're in the area. They may be, but the length of time that they've been gone, most people that escape from here cross the river immediately and get out of this jurisdiction.
However, precautions should still be taken.
Please lock your vehicles, lock your homes, your buildings, stay inside. If you think you have a problem or suspicious person, call us.
You got her.
Control to all units, be advised, we are under condition red, but the county is clear. We are under condition red, but the county is clear.
Jacqueline, Penitentiary?
Control to all units, be advised, we are
Thank you.
under condition red.
It's business as usual this morning for the inmates at the West Virginia Penitentiary. The 3 prisoners who tunneled out apparently got to freedom between 2 and 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Was it a breach of security? The warden says technically yes.
This is really shitty footage, guys. My apologies. It's on and off, on and off.
How much supervision do they really have? The administration staff, before you get to the warden, should be more security minded. You know, like now I wish that he was still the warden.
The end of David Williams' odyssey came about 200 miles from New Martinsville, where he held a couple hostage throughout most of the morning. State police were alerted by a toll booth operator about Williams traveling in the stolen car near Beckley.
When I observed him go by, I tagged along with him until Trooper First Class Moore and Sergeant Sizemore came to me as a backup. In the meantime, Control called Company D, State Police in Beckley, and had other units coming to me. And when all the units got together, we maintained radio communications. We took Mr. Williams down about the 40-mile marker.
We, of course, come out of the car with our weapons drawn and ordered Mr. Williams out of the car. And at first he refused to exit the vehicle, and then he was extricated and taken under control.
Police found several loaded shotguns and a Magnum pistol underneath the driver's seat of the car. Before Williams was driven back to Moundsville, he was brought into the Raleigh County Jail for questioning. Now that 2 of the 3 escapees are captured, Sergeant Pete Lake says it will ease the burden of the search for the final escapee, Tommy.
He said that he would not harm him any.
No, the closest he come to physically hurt me was he stuck the pistol between my shoulder blades when we walked back to the bedroom to waken my wife up.
DK Wright, TV7 News, New Martinsville.
The week began with an exclusive look at some of the high-tech search equipment being used by the West Virginia State Police. The FLIR unit enables one to see in the dark.
Okay, that takes care of that. I did have, and I can't find it now. 1 second. Well, here it is. Hold on a minute. One second. I had it here. Where the hell is it? One second, folks. Bear with me. Oh, there's this story too that I had told you guys once before. I can't find that unless they took it down. I had it at one point. All right, give you this, guys. Here, this is probably going to be the last bit, unless I can find. I'll look for it while you guys are hearing this story here.
This the structure behind me is the former West Virginia State Penitentiary. It did house Kathleen Maddox, who was Charles Manson's mother. She's in for armed robbery at a Charleston gas station, from what I'm told. Charles did write a letter from out in California to the warden here, Bordenkerter, asking to be transferred here because he wanted to be close to his family members, which were up in McMecken, which is 3 miles up the river, which is where he was watched while his mother was here. And he also thought he would get better treatment here, which that probably, just my opinion, probably would not be the case.
Vanessa Rigorex, who lived down the street, said the Colemans appeared to have a perfect life, raising their 2 beautiful sons.
I always thought of them as the American family, the perfect family. Everybody would want their children like these 2 boys, polite, always.
All right, well, I guess that overlapped and I was looking for it. I still can't find it, so my apologies, guys. So, anyway, I did have it once before, and I've seen it I don't know how many times, and it's not up anymore, so I guess they must have taken it down. But there was an interview with a gentleman that actually lived across the street that used to be an inmate of that prison, and maybe he passed on. Maybe that's why because he was an older gentleman. Maybe that's why they took it down. But he used to sit there after being in the prison. He spent 25 years, I think it was. Let me see something. And when he got out, he just moved into a house across the street from it. And he used to sit and say that he would see and hear things from the prison after it shut down, living across the street from it. He would see faces in the windows and all sorts of weird stuff. I thought it was kind of interesting. So there it is, folks. That's it for the night. My apologies. I didn't have more for you. But there's certain things I'm not allowed to show on here, but it is what it is. If I do ever find that, I will show you for sure. There's some people that spent 60 years or more in there, CL. That's what we're doing next. So I guess I got two for we're gonna do this, continue with this a little bit here, guys. Good to see you, Stevie. I hope you guys enjoyed that at least. The next one I have is either Alcatraz or the Weston State Mental Hospital in the state of West Virginia as well, which is where the people that were not, that's okay, Jen, no worries. That's where the people that were not sane enough per se to stay in prison would be taken to. So in Alcatraz is probably going to be a lot more interesting, to be honest with you, than what this one was. I'm going to add, that's the first poll we're going to do. Oh, yeah, interesting, Rowdy. Yeah, good, Evie. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. There's more things like that coming that we're going to cover. And like I said, I'll have more with some of these other ones because that one there doesn't have much. Most of what that one is about is the ghost hunting stuff. There's a lot of that for that place. But this isn't about paranormal, guys. This is about, crimes and criminals and stuff like that. So we're gonna vote on Alcatraz and Weston State Mental Hospital, or the West Virginia State Hospital for the Criminally Insane is what it was called too. So either way, we're gonna do them both. Just see which we're gonna do first or second. That's all. Oh damn, that was quick. I know you do, Rowdy. That'll be coming up soon too, Brandy. No worries. Good to see you, Bobby, old dude. There was more to it, but like I said, a lot of it was paranormal stuff, and I don't know if you guys are interested in that. So. All right, cool. Let's see what this one says. A 93% said yes to Alcatraz and 6% said no. How about that one, guys? And the next one is Weston. I'll just put Weston down. That's the... All right. And it's off. Vote away. And then, of course, guys, tomorrow between 12 and 12:30 sometime, Eastern Standard Time, I will be back doing what we do every day. Looking into some stuff that we've been looking into, trying to find answers to things that we can't get answers to. So I hope to see you guys all here with me for that. As always, I look forward to it. Yeah, I think it's probably going to end up being Alcatraz. So that's going to be your homework, guys, for the rest of the week, is to look into the prison Alcatraz. And again, I'll be telling you about the life and death history, inside, outside, certain criminals and escapes and all that fun stuff. Every day. That's right, OCD. Great song. Love Buddy Holly. Of that prison itself, or the place, the hospital, or whatever we look at, we're going to be doing that. So. Yeah, we're going to be going into that here relatively soon as well, Brandy, and that's going to be Mob Week, or however we do it. But we're going to be looking into the old history, starting back in the 20s and 30s of the mob, all the way up to now, or where it left off. I think I already know the answer to this. I'm just going to pull this one now because I don't see anybody else voting on this one like this. 93-6 and 68-31. Okay. Yeah, we definitely going to be Alcatraz. So there's your homework, folks. Alcatraz it is. Alcatraz it is. Let's see here. 1 second.
Alcatraz is.
I'll give you guys a quick little look real quick. That will be, no, that'll be this Thursday night. What's up, Kimberly? This Thursday night, we will be covering this right here, you guys.
Most famous prisons. It's well known for housing incredibly dangerous convicts, from Al Capone to Machine Gun Kelly, and it has a long history of prison break attempts. However, its legacy doesn't stop there. You see, there lies a series of remarkably preserved tunnels and buildings just inches below the surface, remnants that stand atop the island's little-known past from the Civil War. Today, we discover the mystery of Alcatraz's lost tunnel system. I'm your host, Ryan Sokash, and you're watching It's History. Dangerous convicts from
There's the prison
Alcatraz
itself.
is undoubtedly one of the world's most famous prisons. It's well known.
So that's what we're going to be looking at come Thursday night. I'm not going to give you guys too much on it because it's cheating. But that's what we're doing Thursday night. Mandy Doe. Yeah, that's typically what happens to anybody that tried to escape from there. They never were found. Whether they got away or not, nobody knows. The movie was great. There's a movie, if you guys want to check it out, it might help a little bit, called Escape from Alcatraz. It had Clint Eastwood and everybody in it. There was a couple other famous actors in it. It's a great movie, though, folks. Really good movie. There was also a movie in the 90s called The Rock that came out with Sean Connery about Alcatraz. Another great movie. Check them out, folks. Seriously, check them out. Mandy Joe. I heard that story, too, Firefly says. The two brothers that escaped are thought to have lived in Brazil. Never found. Lisa says, are you from West Virginia? I am not. I live in Ohio. Close, but not West Virginia. Sorry to say. It's a beautiful place. I have my aunt and uncle lived down there for quite a while, and I did visit down there a lot, down near Buchanan, West Virginia. Alton, West Virginia, they had property down there. So I stayed down there a lot during the summers when I was a kid. Yes, there is quite a few of them actually about that stuff. So again, does anybody have any questions about tonight's stuff or anything about that, or anything at all? Anything at all? Anything at all? Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy these evening streams where we're not talking about what we talk about every day. I hope you get some kind of enjoyment out of it, a little bit of break from the monotony, like what we normally do. When did I go to Moundsville? Good God. Say wow 22 from Kanawha County, West Virginia. Wow, awesome. And we didn't sleep. No, we didn't sleep. I'll tell you that right now, Rowdy. We did not sleep one moment. We walked around the whole night. We looked at everything we could. I think there was too much fear in the air to sleep and we also were too curious. Okay. So no, we didn't sleep there. We sat in the cells. We walked around. We did EVP sessions. We did camera shootings, recordings, so on and so forth. Logan, West Virginia. Well, welcome to all you West Virginia Mountaineers. Good to have you here. Thank you, Mikey. I appreciate that, brother, so very much. Like I said, I hope you guys can get some kind of enjoyment out of these in the evenings, because awesome, Andy Joe. Congratulations, Danielle. Welcome to the family. Are you in here, Danielle? I think she was at one point. Another meatball in the sauce. Thank you so much, Mandy Joe. That was very sweet of you. Oh, we got quite a few places that we can look at, folks, that were either for the criminally insane, that were prisons. Just a little added touch to the midnight series that I call it, that we run. We're going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at, like I said, we're going to be jumping into the mob week, as I call it, or we might use it just for the evenings shows, but we're going to go all the way back to the 20s and 30s, starting with people like Machine Gun Kelly, Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, and looking into their histories and their criminal, what their criminal activities were, all the way up through the Gotti family in that scenario. So that's something that's going to be coming up as well. Something different to look forward to other than what we do during the day. Keep you guys interested in what we're doing here, guys. I have a lot to offer you guys across the board. Something I have a big passion for is crime, mystery, and the history of crime. We can definitely look into that one, Carolyn. That was an insane story. The baby Lindbergh case. It was crazy, folks. Crazy, but it goes in line with some of that, so we may take a look at that. The name of the hotel where Lisa Lamb passed away was... Oh my God. That was the California hotel. They found her in the water tower, the water tank on the roof. Jesus, I can't think of it because I didn't cover that, but I really looked into that case because it freaked me out. That's where we're going to after Alcatraz, Lisa, is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum or Weston State Hospital. That is going to be the next one for those of you that are interested. I have friends that are close to the owners of the Trans-Allegheny. That is scary. That's very scary. Thank you so very much, Canadian. I appreciate that more than you know. That's what helps keeps me out here with coming to you guys. It pays the internet. It pays for the StreamYard. So I do appreciate any donations to the channel to keep me running because I am fully crowdfunded, folks. You guys pay the bills for me, and I do what I can do for you. So thank you so very much for that, Canadian Cat Lady. That is so very much appreciated. More than you know. If it wasn't for that kind of stuff, I might not be here. So thank you. The Cecil Hotel. Thank you very much. Elisa Lamb. That was it. That story was enthralling to me, folks. Very much so. They made a movie about that, by the way. It was called Dark Water. That story was insane. That was insane. Scared the death out of me. But then it was a letdown, folks. I'll be honest with you. When I found the real story out, I was just like, okay, that was it. So, and I love you guys that much as well, Mandy. I really do. Thank you for that. And I thank you for that as well, Canadian. Thank you so very much. I hope you guys do enjoy the time that you spend with me because I know I enjoy it so very much. Whatever we're doing. You guys are absolutely amazing people. Every one of you guys, seriously. I agree, Mandy. There was something, I don't know. Well, I know that they had said, why is my camera doing this? There we go. They had said that she had some kind of mental health history. And that's what I was going on. And then but something is still weird about that, because the way they found her, thank you, Carolyn. I feel the same with you. The way they found her, you wouldn't think that she could have done that to herself. You see what I'm saying? How did she close the lid and get in there and do all that? Like that still doesn't make sense to me. It's still very off to me. It was a very odd story. Yeah, Mikey, it was super intense. I watched it on Netflix, and then I watched another episode on it, and then I watched another series of stuff on it. So yeah. Lisa says my husband, and I'm about 30 miles south of Cleveland, Lisa. That's awesome. Another go Browns. Hey. Yeah, they found her, and that was what was weird to me, guys. Elisa Lamb, when they found her in the water tank, quite a while before that, they had all of those officers on the roof looking, investigating, right? None of them looked in the water tank. That was just weird to me. And how did she get in the water tank, go down inside there, close the lid, and then do what she did? And take all of her clothes off too. How did that happen? That's what I don't understand. Mount Olive. Okay, say wow. That's where the new prison's at, is Mount Olive. Natalie Woods. That's something we can look into at some point too, Brandy. That's always been a mystery to me. I love that stuff. I agree, Bonnie. Good to have you here, Bonnie. You guys are awesome. I have a lot of fun with you guys when we do this stuff too. Shaz says she was schizophrenic and went there to commit suicide and didn't want to be found. She had stopped taking her medication, allegedly. Right. But it's the same time. I want to know. I felt like somebody may have helped her. Like I said, the lid was closed. She was inside the tank. Her clothes were off. It just seemed weird, as if when you look at the way the tank was set up and all that, you can't. I don't know. You can't really do that, in my opinion. It was just weird to me. Right. That's what happened. The people, that's how they found her, guys, is that there were people staying in the hotel, and they started saying that like the water tasted funny and it smelled funny. So they were doing this and doing that. And eventually, after a while, there was a British couple that stayed there for, I think, a week. They were drinking the water that whole time and showering in it and doing all this stuff, right? And then eventually, I think they sent a maintenance man to check the water, and he found her. And it's like, no. No. Because she had been in that water tank for quite a few weeks before that she was found. So decomp definitely happened in there. Definitely. Maintenance said that they found the lid after they closed the lid after they found her. See, I thought the way she was found was that the lid was closed when they found her. That he opened it, from what I understood, and he looked down in and saw her. The video of her in the elevator and coming, very weird. Yes, the way she was looking and peeking, and it almost looked like they were cut too. The videos looked like they were cut. It was very strange, the whole thing. It was very interesting, though. I could not take my eyes off it the whole time I was watching it. It was very crazy. No evidence left, right? I thought it was closed too. Same hotel that Richard Ramirez stayed in. That's correct. That's a fact. Very, very crazy, guys. Well, again, folks, I think that's going to bring me down for the night. It is 10:30. I need to do something that sounds like sleep at some point. Yeah, no lie, Heather. That's what I said. I said it to my wife. She said I'd be severely traumatized for the rest of my life having drank and bathed in that water. You ain't lying, sis. I told my wife, I said, if I would have drank even just a little bit of that water, I would not. You have to have me locked up, guys. I'd be freaked out, weirded out, the whole thing. He did. Yeah, he did, Mikey. Richard Ramirez, a Night Stalker. He stayed in that same hotel. That's a fact. Hey, Shattered Dimensions. Yes, I'm going to try to lay down here, get some sleep. Some of the treatments and yeah, that's something we're going to look into there when we look into that one too, Lisa. Very weird things that went on there as well. So again, guys, thank you so very much for joining me tonight. Always a treat for me. Always a pleasure to be here with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Again, thank you for that donation, Canadian Cat Lady. Anybody else that has donated to it, thank you very much for that. I do appreciate that more than you know. Again, that's what keeps me doing what I'm doing, and that's what keeps me coming to you guys every single day, and I appreciate that so very much. Guys, don't forget to love yourselves and to love each other, and don't forget, I will be here tomorrow between noon and 12:30 Eastern Standard Time to carry on what we do. I'm looking forward to seeing you all then. Guys, have an amazing rest of your night. And I will see you on the other side, folks. Have a great one. She isn't the Cat Lady. Canadian True Crime Buff. I'm sorry. Wrong one. My apologies. There was 2 Canadians that I saw. Either way, thank you so very much for that. My apologies. Thank you, Brandy, so very much. You guys have an amazing night. I love you guys to death. See you soon. Bye-bye.